Okay, everybody, welcome to episode 10. We're now done with the two hands here. 10 of Dragon Ball. I was about to say Dragon Ball Daima. No, not Dragon Ball Daima. The Geekdom Super Magic Show. I hope you're doing well today. It's December 8th, 2024. So we're literally a month away from 2025. Man, I remember when 2024 first started. We say that every year, don't we? Life seems to get faster the older we get, which means I'll be dead tomorrow at this rate. And I'm sure some people will be very happy about that. Most of you probably won't be, but hey, we can have a good laugh and good times until then. So we got a special episode today for you. First of all, I hope you're doing well. We are going to be discussing Dragon Ball Daima episode 9, featuring the debut of Majin Kuu and Majin Kuu, excuse me. Fuck, I'm thinking about something else. The debut of Majin Kuu, as well as the discovery of the third eye, which I was not expecting that. When I first saw the episode, I totally missed it. I was like, I don't know if I looked away or went to go grab water. I did go grab water at one point, so I think that's when I missed it. But it was there. I saw it the second time. I'm like, oh shit, there's the eye. So that'll come into play later on, and we'll talk to you all about it. And we got a special guest for you this week. I'm so happy to have him on. Somebody from the cast of Dragon Ball Daima. I want y'all to welcome him to the Super Magic Show. He is a voice actor and of anime, as well as other things. We'll get into the career thing, and we're going to be talking about Daima and other, his other career ventures and things like that. Please welcome Nasim Benelkour. Yo,
what's going on? Yeah, I'm excited to be here, man. No, I'm chilling. I'm having a good Sunday morning, afternoon-ish. So I'm excited to be on the show, man. Obviously, I've been, I've said it to you in private. I've been watching you for a little bit, keeping up with your content. I've been involved with the community ever since, booking Piccolo Mini. And, the community has been great. The reactions to Daima has also been great. The reactions to the dub has also really been great. So I'm just, glad to be here, talk some Daima, and, explore a little bit about my career. Thanks for having me on.
Let's talk about it, bro. And Sosa's in the chat right now. We've already got super chats. So if you have a question for Nasim, go ahead and throw them in the super chats. Mm-hmm. They're going to get priority because they always do. Sosa is in the chat. I went to go see the dub in theaters with Sosa. Not really sure what to expect. Mm-hmm. I knew prior to seeing it that Jonathan Rigg was the director. We're going to talk all about this when I talk to you about it and kind of how you got there. Yeah. But what we didn't know was what the cast was going to be, because Stephanie was something that it was actually in some ways the worst kept secret. If I can just be very, very honest with you.
Yeah.
She was seen at Crunchyroll. There were people who don't even work on Dragon Ball, right, who saw her there, and it's like, why would Stephanie Nadolny be here? Now, granted, there's a lot of different voice roles she could have done, but you think in your head, okay, there's the new anime coming where Goku's a kid again. You put 2 and 2 together, and that is a big deal. And what I find interesting about Stephanie's return, and Stephanie's my friend, so I'm very happy for her, is in the Japanese, I didn't know this until Daima started, with the Japanese voice cast, the only returning actor, with the exception of course, episode 1 that had them as adults first, full-size version, was Nozawa playing Goku. All the new actors, Vegeta, Piccolo, Supreme Kai, all the characters we already knew were recast with young actors. And then the dub did the same thing. Do you happen to know if that was done on purpose, or if that was just something that creatively Jonathan and the people at Crunchyroll were just like, let's just bring in a new young cast?
Honestly, I'm not really sure myself. There's a lot of things that I don't know. There's a lot of things that Jonathan doesn't know himself. A lot of it, from what I do know is Toei's kind of involvement and whatnot, and the masterminds that play around with everything decision-wise when it comes to what they want to do for the show. As a fan, when seeing Daima initially, I kind of thought that would have been the case. It would have been a little bit weird, just as a consumer, for me to see, Sabbath, very deeply doing like, Piccolo as a kid. I'm like, I don't know if they were gonna get to that direction. But I think the move itself was pretty dope. Although I don't really have that much, knowledge about it. When I went into my first section for Piccolo Mini and I saw Nadoni on the cast, I was like, whoa, this is gonna be really big, and the fans are gonna be really, really excited. 15 years, man. People have been waiting. So, like, despite my lack of knowledge, it was a really good move in my opinion.
Oh no, it's cool if you don't know. I was just wondering because it was interesting how they followed suit. And yeah, obviously Toei. That's the thing that's funny about Toei is when Dragon Ball was first being done back in the 90s and early 2000s, Toei wasn't really that involved. They obviously gave Funimation at the time, this is before obviously Crunchyroll, the merger, Sony and all that. They gave them the tapes and the scripts and things like that, but they really didn't go in and monitor them and see what they were doing, which I think is there's obviously pros and cons to like having the big daddy looking over your shoulder. On one hand, you have more creative freedom if they're not there. On the other hand, sometimes that creative freedom can, go a little too far. And I've been critical myself of the script of the old English dub. I've been very critical of it because it changes a lot.
Yeah.
Now, it was a different era though. Yeah. Now, what the good thing of having Toei there is that, but it's also kind of intimidating that they're there, and it's Toei, and it's like they can take this away, and they won't, but they can take it away at any time, and it's like I'm not saying you, but I'm saying like if I were like somebody at Crunchyroll, I'd be like very. I mean, you got to be respectful to the Japanese, but it seems like lately, starting with Kai, things have really taken a shift for the better. And when I went to go see the Daima dub in theaters, right? We're going to get to Sosa's questions and everything here in a minute. I was looking out for the voices, but also I had seen episode 1 in Japanese like 3 times. Yeah. So I knew the script relatively well. Now, obviously, when it comes to translating Japanese to English and doing the mouth flaps, it's never going to be 100%. It's very hard. Yeah, it's hard. Like, and the thing about Japanese that people need to understand, it's a very hard language sometimes to translate.
100%.
For example, something I noticed, and I'm going to talk more about this in the next few weeks, not so much now, but Majin Kuu is being spelled Kuu, both by the official Dragon Ball site and by the subtitles. However, part of me is wondering if it's actually supposed to be Cuu, because in Japanese there is no K or C. The K is the same sound. Same thing with Vegeta and Vegeta. So I wonder if it's supposed to be Majin Kuu with a C, because Boo and then Ku, the next letter of the alphabet. And it hit me today, and I was like,
oh, that's honestly a really cool, analysis, Yeah.
Yeah. No, I haven't talked about it yet because I'm waiting. I'll go over why some other time, probably not publicly, but I'm waiting to see if that's the case. Now, I did want to talk about the last episode of Daima. But let me get to these super chats first. And I do want to get into, of course, how you wound up with the role and your career and everything. Sosa says, bro, this is so awesome. Was so much fun hearing this with you for the first time weeks ago. So much love for you. Thank you, Sosa. And then he says, Nasim, what is your favorite arc of Dragon Ball? As many details you would like to share. I think he means not Daima. That's one arc, but like all of and it's not even done yet, so we don't know.
My thing is, initially, and I would admit this here because I admit this on other podcasts before, I wasn't the biggest Dragon Ball fan before booking Daima. And upon booking Daima, I became a Dragon Ball concierge in 2 days. So I went back and watched the Dragon Ball Z. I went back and watched the original Dragon Ball. I went back and watched Kai. I did my due diligence for this role. And GT, I still need to pick up GT. I did see, reviews of GT and timelines of GT to kind of understand the story with everything around that. But in terms of the question, let me stop sidetracking. My favorite arc in Dragon Ball by far would probably have to be the Cell arc. I really did enjoy the Cell arc as a fan. I know people kind of have their, opinions about the Cell arc and whatnot. I just, really love the actor that plays Cell. There's this, certain.
Are you talking about Damian Clark or Norio Wakamoto?
Damian Clark. I love the English.
They're both great.
Yeah, they're both great. I love the Cell arc in my opinion, and it's mainly because of his performance, man. I don't know what it is. Maybe this is just sense of nostalgia that comes with Cell, or just this cool, little voice that comes with Cell, man. Every time that I pick up Sparking, he is my main in Sparking Zero, Cell, and I play with him a lot. He's just really cool character. It's hard for me to really break it down in terms of Harley specific things. I just like cool things, and Cell's a really cool character for me, so I'd probably have to go with the Cell arc in my opinion.
I think Perfect Cell is one of the best designs. And you know what I also feel too, bro? I don't know how you feel about this, but because I have a buddy of mine who kind of he thought this was a hot take, but I don't think it's a hot take.
Yeah.
First form Cell, when he's got the alien look with the
yeah,
I think that's a cool looking design. He's a bug creature, all fucking alien like.
Yeah,
I think Perfect Cell is better for Dragon Ball for fights and things like that. It's got the Magneto with the big ass. Yeah, he's awesome. And he's also a narcissist, which I love a villain. I love that Frieza is and I'm going to eventually do a video breakdown about this. Frieza is like a sociopathic, psychopath, whereas Cell is just a narcissist. But either way, it's bad. But he's great, bro. He's great. I mean, when you went back to watch everything, because everybody in the chat's 2 days. So
not all 2 days.
Finish it. In 2 days.
I didn't finish it in 2 days. I took 2 days do research about it, and over the course of me recording for Daima and whatnot, I've been just kind of going in the research aspect of going into it. Slowly watching everything and whatnot, picking up everything and whatnot. Mainly my source of information has been by creators, like you and other people within the community, looking at timeline videos, looking at some of the theory videos, looking at a lot of stuff that just kind of make Dragon Ball, and just more of getting that overall analysis of what has happened and whatnot, and then separately allocating some time to be able to watch stuff individually and whatnot. But the first time that I actually picked up Dragon Ball, because I didn't not watch Dragon Ball before Daima, the thing that I did watch though was Super. That was my first introduction to Dragon Ball entirely, was Super. And I remember it because back when I was in Florida kicking it with my friends, my old roommates.
That's where I'm from.
They put me on to Dragon Ball and whatnot. They were like, yo, you got to watch this, man. It's super cool. And, Battle of Gods, that whole thing. And I was just like, I really mess with this. A lot of people have their different opinions about Dragon Ball and whatnot, but for me, I really do love the slice of life aspect of Dragon Ball a lot. I feel like that's a very underrated part of Dragon Ball that not a lot of people comment on a lot, the slice of life stuff. And, in Super, and especially with some of the filler stuff that they included that slice of life into it, and I really did like that. I like the baseball filler arc.
My favorite.
I love that, man, because it was so funny, hearing the performance of Beerus, with Champa, going back and forth about this baseball game, literally gods of destruction playing, baseball. It's a lot of kooky stuff, but I really did appreciate that overall sense of Super, which initially got me into the series as the whole thing, to be honest.
What's wild, bro, is that I've noticed younger people like yourself, and we're gonna get into all this, they got into Dragon Ball with Super, and it's weird to me because a lot of Super relies on nostalgia for Z, a lot of it does, and even original Dragon Ball, because Aralé's appearance, it was the very next episode after the baseball one, the Arale episode. A lot of people had no idea who Arale was, and I did a video discussing it then, when it first came out, but I left a lot of stuff out because I can't explain. I mean, I could, but it would take a long time.
Yeah.
The importance of Arale, to Toriyama and in the original Dragon Ball, like, because like there's a lot to talk about. Like this character in Japan, Arale is like, I don't want to say Mickey Mouse. I'd say like Bart Simpson. Like because Dr. Slump is a pure comedy. It's just Dragon Ball's got comedy in it, but Dr. Slump is just like episodic, like, something will happen in one moment. Arale will literally punch the earth in half. The next scene, it's back together again. Like it doesn't, nothing ever holds, right? And so there's so much to talk about with that character. And I had to limit it, but I always tell people to really understand Toriyama, and we're going to get to it when we talk about the last episode of Daima. You really got to like go past Dragon Ball. And I'm not saying you, I mean like the fans, because I think most people that are here are probably just Dragon Ball people. But I mean, if you try reading or watching some of the other stuff he worked on, you get a better understanding for the kind of guy he was.
Exactly.
So yeah, the Cell Saga is a lot of people's favorites. I mean, that was my favorite arc for years, but I think as I got older, the Saiyan saga for Z, like that was always my second favorite. It became my number one favorite because I started to notice that the Cell Saga had some story issues that the Saiyan saga didn't have. But the Cell Saga's got highs that there are highs in the Cell Saga that no other arc hit. Like Super Saiyan 2 Gohan, Trunks killing Frieza. These are like moments that are just if you're doing a top 10 Dragon Ball moments, you can't leave those out. You know what I mean? And they're all over the Cell Saga. Did you watch the Z dub or the Kai dub when you were rewatching?
Oh man, that was a little bit. I think I was watching the Z dub. Yes, because I think I do remember Nadoni's performance as Kid Trunks when I was watching it. So Kid Gohan. I mess it up here and there.
I got you. Kid Trunks was the next arc. And I will say Damian Clark is a great Cell. He's one of the ones that, like, when you look at like Kai versus Z, a lot of actors improved when they went to do Kai because they were older, they had, they were more experienced.
Exactly.
He didn't need to improve because he was already great. You know what I mean? He was already great.
Indeed.
So yeah. Now let me get to this next one here from Yash. He says, hi Nasim, great work on the show. Really enjoyed watching on the big screen. What's your favorite aspect about Piccolo? Actually, before you answer that, I want to let everybody know January 10th. I've already done a video about this, but January 10th, the dub will begin to air on Crunchyroll. And I assume it'll go on Netflix and everywhere else too. But let me ask you this, and you may not know. Are we getting a batch of episodes, or are we going to start with episode 4 and then 5 and then every week? Do you happen to know what's going to happen on that day? Because January 10th is a while from now.
Yeah, January 10th is a while. Honestly, like I said, I'm not really sure. I don't even think Jonathan might know, to be honest. There's not a lot of information that gets communicated on that.
It's the higher up shit.
It's the higher up stuff. So it's more just like, hey, when it happens, probably wish for it with the Dragon Balls, and hopefully that, it does come out with the first 3 episodes. But, from what I do know, from an actor perspective, having worked on other Crunchyroll shows before, usually when they indicate something is simuldub, that means it's going to be simultaneously released
a couple of weeks, right?
A couple
Sometimes,
of weeks. You know what I'm saying? So a week by week basis, usually when the sub is out, a dub episode will be out as well, whether that dub episode is behind or it's still, the same with that. I know people were making comparisons saying that they kind of wished that, especially with the recent Dandadan anime that's been out, with it releasing on the same day, the Japanese and the English releasing simultaneously as well. But I feel like that with Daima, because with the scheduling and whatnot, they kind of have the reasonings for it and whatnot. But I'm trying to see, what direction that they go to on January 10th. Me as a fan, I'm hoping that they release the first 3 episodes since they already put it out in theatrical release.
But like whatever you're at,
exactly, right? Wherever you at. But as an actor, I also, kind of would understand if they were to start like, hey, episode 1, episode 2, episode 3, and then so on. You know what I'm saying? But as a fan, I hope that they drop the first 3 episodes, when January 10th comes out. But that's gonna more be like when we will know type of scenario.
Well, I think the first 3 are gonna drop that day. I mean, I don't think you have to worry about that. But the thing that's gonna be weird is, okay, now let's say that by the time January 10th rolls around, your crew gets up to, I'm just going to say a random number.
Yeah.
You get up to episode 12. Let's just pick that random number. I think they should drop everything until 12 and then do it weekly. Because I feel like if they start with 4, they do 1, 2, 3, and then 4, right? And then you have to wait a week for 5. I think it'll just be very behind. And here's the thing. So I feel mixed on this because as a fan, yes, like I'm happy that the dub is so quickly after the sub because it's never been like this. Kai took a year, Super took a year and a half, and the Kai Boo saga was even longer, right? And then Z, the Dragon Ball Z Ocean dub, the first Dragon Ball Z dub was in 96.
Jesus.
The show finished in 96 in Japan and started in 89. So it's like 6 years. So like the era of like waiting years and years and years for a dub is passe. We're past that.
Exactly.
So I feel like this is as close we're going to get to being simul-dubbed. Why are they picking January 10th? I know it's above your it's above your pay grade, as they say, but I do wish they would have done the dub as quickly as possible because I know a lot of people who are like, you know, because they've been turned into minis again. I want to watch this with my kids. I want it to be, and it's 20 episodes and all that. But I don't know.
I don't know either. I mean, you know, the theorize it just to kind of add my last 2 cents to the topic. You know, I might even just be like, you know, the fact that, you know, the dub might just be potentially going on other streaming services as well. Maybe that there's complication on that end with it, you know, because Daima is available, you know, for the sub
everywhere,
you know, everywhere. You know, people were telling me that Toonami also is doing it, you know, it has like some stuff there. I'm not sure like how long it would take for that to kind of happen. You know, but when or wherever the dub kind of gets streamed, I'm hoping as an actor, like I said, it goes everywhere. I want people everywhere to be able to enjoy the dub on any streaming service that is be able to be available. But you know, it might be because of that. I'm not really sure. I don't really have that much, you know, that much intellect into the topic to kind of properly give a firm opinion on that. But you know, as a fan, I'm hoping for the best.
You want to be there as fast as possible. I'm sure if it was you, it's like me or anybody else. If you're a fan of this shit, you want it as fast as possible. Like if I were in charge, I'd be like, no, let's get this dub out as fast as we can. Because there are people who are visually impaired. There's also people who have kids. Like I've never been against dubs. I've always been just against bad dub scripts.
Oh yeah.
But when I went to go see the Daima dub, like I said, nothing is ever 100%, and there was some things added for context, but I wouldn't say they were bad. That they did change, but it was pretty much the same. Like there wasn't anything that I was looking forward to, like anything egregious that changed the story. Like it was fine. I'm like, okay, this is good. Like let's get this out. Like I'll watch this shit, and like I don't mind, but like you know. Again, it's above our pay grade. And as I've said before about Toonami, I want to comment on that because I know someone's going to ask about that. I think it'll eventually get on Toonami, but it's not going to get on Toonami before it gets on Crunchyroll because going all the way back to when it was originally called Dragon Ball Magic, this whole thing was originally supposed to be a web anime, aka a streaming anime. This was not meant to be on television. It was meant to be, that's why the first episode's longer, because it was meant to be like streaming. Because believe it or not, even though we've had streaming here forever, a lot of these Japanese companies are very behind when it comes to like, you know, like they're ahead of us technologically, but they're behind sometimes when it comes to how people watch shit. So like Dragon Ball having a streaming exclusive show when it was called Magic was great. But like so with that being said, there was talk of Crunchyroll even back then. And then what happened was when Toriyama passed away, Fuji TV came in and said, we want to air it. And so that's why it's airing on Friday. So they paid for it. I know Fuji paid for it. So I think it will be on Toonami, but I think the Crunchyroll deal was made so far before that they're going to get it first. I mean, it's being recorded at Crunchyroll.
Exactly.
So it's like, what are you going to do? Give it up to the Cartoon Network? No, we're going to get it first. We got to get people got to get on our app, you know. So it makes sense.
You know.
So to Yash's question, what's your favorite aspect of Piccolo?
Oh man, yeah, I really, I say this biasly and non-biasly at the same time. I really enjoy Piccolo as a character. I feel like that, upon me doing more research for him, I discovered that just how many layers Piccolo has as an individual outside of just him, fusing with both Nail and Kami. You know what I'm saying? Just, even with his OG, just Piccolo himself, being that reincarnation of Demon King Piccolo and that whole kind of timeline with that. There's a lot to his character. And I feel like that over time, as both a fan and as someone that, obviously is playing Piccolo, I really admire Piccolo's, especially with, the whole fusing with Kami thing and after Nail, his willingness to improve as an individual. You know what I'm saying? I remember that there being, key notes within him training Gohan somewhere in Super where he was doing this monologue and he was talking about how, the whole aspect of losing, like never think that there's a battle that you can't lose. Like don't be too arrogant going into a battle and whatnot. And I appreciate Piccolo's kind of more humblest mentality in terms of stuff, especially kind of going more deeper into, who he is as an individual and who he continues to progress to be over time. You know what I mean? And that probably might just be traits with Kami's, influence and maybe a little bit of Nail's influence going into this, mesh of this character that we have, today. But I honestly feel like that it's that there's so much to talk about when it comes to his character. So it's hard to kind of pick a favorite aspect, but I just love and appreciate just how much layers are there because we know going back to the OG Dragon Ball with, in my opinion, one of the best fights of the entire series being Piccolo versus Goku at the World Tournament, that whole thing, I initially thought as a fan, watching this, I'm like, they really took this character of Piccolo, starting from Demon King Piccolo, and progressed him as a character
He's like a
throughout this
martial
whole
artist.
time. You know what I'm saying? Throughout this whole time, and like really like allowed him to have all these layers and whatnot. So like I'm just I really enjoy, just him as an individual, and it's kind of hard for me to properly, form something about this because I'm still learning of his character, by time and time to go on and whatnot. Learning from the fans and whatnot, learning from, people doing like rundowns and, proper characterizations of the character and whatnot, going into the timeline of the Nameless Namekian stuff with Kami. There's so much stuff that comes with his character, man. So, there's a lot to appreciate about, who he is as an individual.
And I think the reason as to why he's even involved in Daima is gonna have to do with finding out more about the Namekian history, which I want to talk to you about later on the stream because I think it's not just that he's gonna have some cool fight scenes. I do think that the whole reason why Toriyama wrote him to be a part of this adventure, because for a lot of Super, it was the Goku and Vegeta show. I mean, that's what it was.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until Superhero that finally Piccolo and Gohan got center stage.
Yeah.
And Piccolo got 2 new forms. And that was the Piccolo movie. So it's like with this, I'm like, okay, this is earlier in the timelines before Super. He's not going to get any crazy power-ups, but that's not what this is about.
Yeah.
I think it's about him being a Namekian and having the demon people react to him being a Namekian while also going to Demon World 2. I think when they get to Demon World 2, I think that's going to be the massive lore drop with Namekians and Supreme Gods. I think they're holding off. I think Piccolo's going to be the guy who's going to find out about his history.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like he knows a little bit based on what he got from the Nail fusion from Grand Elder, but like you know what I'm saying? Like he's gonna really know. And the thing is, when you and I were talking in the DMs about this, I was trying to tell you, like, dude, like you are in Dragon Ball. Like, I'm not saying this as like a fan of Dragon Ball. I'm saying it as somebody who studied the business and studied everything.
Yeah.
This is a big deal for your career. Like, this is huge because there's people I know who have wanted to be in Dragon Ball for decades. And you're in. And not only are you in, you're playing motherfucking, excuse my language, Piccolo. Like you could make the argument he just had Superhero, which put him center stage, but you could make the argument that behind Goku and Vegeta, Piccolo's the very next character. I mean, you could say Gohan, but he's nowhere to be found in this show yet. So this is Piccolo's number 3, I would say. Some would say Glorio. I'm not so sure about that. I think it is Piccolo.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So like this is a big deal. So I want to ask you, and I've got one more super chat, but I want to hold off on it for just a moment. I got a couple more, but I want to ask you, okay, I want to know the story of how you wound up playing Piccolo, because all right, how did this journey, because well, actually, let's go back a little bit further. How did you first get into voice? Were you obviously you were probably watching cartoons / anime when you were a kid, and you probably thought, hey, I could do that. Like every kid has that fantasy. But how did you get into the business?
Oh yeah. Okay. So I love telling the story because it just takes me back and, kind of allows myself to appreciate my beginning.
I love these stories, man.
So let's take it back a little bit. Let's sit by the campfire and talk about this. Always see the Dragon Balls in the very, near distance. It's all started when I was 12. At the age of 12, I was a stop motion animator, and I used to at the age of 12, I was a stop motion animator using Lego minifigures to tell stories and whatnot. And I saw amidst my community and whatnot, very notable names like Forest Fire 101 and a lot of other people within the brick film community, used voices for their characters, and I loved that. So I took my little app that I had on my phone, and I was just like, oh, there is a voice record feature to do this. So I just started kind of, developing my own voices for the characters that I had within, my little animations and whatnot. And, growing up, I feel like that I was a little bit of a weird kid. I was a lot more obsessed with the career aspect of, doing what I want to do more than some folks at that age, with my mom, kind of hyper specifically commenting on it a lot, being like, oh, you really, got my workaholicism, from, my mom to me. So I was
question. When you said do what I want to do, you're talking about like basically having your own business / being self-employed, like kind of like, because I'm the same way as you. I was always a results-based guy. Like when you're young, bro, I've worked at phone jobs where you're on the phone and you're taking calls for 8 hours, and it's just not for me. It's for some people, it's just not for me. If I can get work done in 2 hours, that's gonna pay me what I would make in 8. I'm gonna I would work my ass off. I mean, I have done videos where I stayed up all night till 2 p.m. the next day editing because I want to get it done. So I was just letting you know that I can relate to that. And that is what you're talking about, right? Like
100%.
Putting in more. Okay, continue. I just wanted to make sure we're on the same page.
No, 100%. So, like I said, around that kind of age, I was, doing the animation stuff. And, I kind of fell out of it because I didn't fall out of it mainly because of animation. I fell out of it because I loved, the voice acting aspect more. So, I, decided I'm like, hey, I'm going to put a lot more work into the foreground of making this a thing. So around the time when I was like, 15, 16, a little bit, that's when I really started taking it seriously. Approaching doing workshops, classes, research, flying out to conventions across the states to meet up with voice actors in person to ask questions about this career, doing auditions and a bunch of other stuff. A lot of people that have had a proper timeline of knowing me from like my, essential start from where I started to where I am now, kind of understand, where, that work process kind of came from and just how much work went into, getting here today. But to mainly, kind of jump ahead a little bit, I got into Crunchyroll initially because, like I said, I was in Florida. I was born in New York. I'm a New Yorker, Brooklyn, Red Hook and whatnot. But I was born in New York, went to Florida and whatnot. So I went to Florida to Texas to record for a character called Nadir in Sugar Apple Fairy Tale and another character named Golgar in The Great Cleric. And this was around the time I was 18. I got into Crunchyroll I was 18 years old. And going into that area of it, I went down to Texas. I was like, yeah, I'm going to do this and then I'm going to go back to Florida. And then I got called into the next day and I was just like, I can't do that, So
wait, this was 2021. This is after the pandemic?
This was after the pandemic. This was like 2020, like 3. I've been with Crunchyroll for like a year and a half. So the timeline of it was a little like iffy, but in terms of Crunchyroll stuff, like I was doing that there and stuff.
Did you have like an agent that got you in?
Nope. So the way I got in was pretty convoluted too. So I took a class class with Jonathan Rigg back when I was in Florida in a workshop because initially I wanted to get into a show called Blue Lock, and I was really obsessed with wanting to get into that show and whatnot. I went into the class, I showed him what I can do. I came down here to Dallas and, met up with him in person. And, Jonathan Rigg was the first person to actually place his faith in me and call me in for my first ever session at the building and whatnot for a show called Sacrificial Princess and the King of the Beast. And, he called me in. He really liked my stuff. And, he continued to feed me over time when it came, roles and opportunity. So, to have that, do a 180 to now work with him on Daima is, so dope. So to kind of, play around with it a little bit more, I came into the stuff a little bit. I came down here. I booked with some roomies for like 8 months, sleeping on somebody's couch, and then got my own place in January with my current roommate today. And I've been out here officially for about 6 months, over a little bit to a year. So, it's been a process, man. There's a lot of stuff that I left out because there's so much to it, and I don't want to yap about it a little too much, but, the timeline of it was just essentially, being, really driven and being really obsessed about this, work and this career. And I still am today, even with, having this privilege of an opportunity of being Piccolo. I just know that there's so much needed to do on the back end to, make sure that I can, live up to the expectations of being such a really big role. You know what I mean? So there's a lot to it, but that's kind of more of the gist of everything. If you want to ask hyper specific questions, I could be able to answer that.
Well, my follow-up with that would be, so you already sort of knew Jonathan for before you even came into Piccolo. So is it fair to say that, how they say that directors have their guys, for example, to go into the movies, like Quentin Tarantino always has Samuel L. Jackson, or guys like that, Michael Madsen's in his movie. So is it fair to say that whenever a project comes across Jonathan's table, that maybe if he thinks of a voice that you would be good for, he gives you a call? Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I mean, I would say relatively so. I feel like that a lot of directors at Crunchyroll are fairly, they try their best to be as, unbiased as possible, but it's more of a trusting system, right? Towards where the more that an actor, the more that you trust them, with the role and whatnot. And that kind of, happens within more of the hierarchy of things. So it's more of a trust thing than it is hey, I know that guy, let's throw him in. Maybe it is that, a little bit of that. But with Jonathan, at least, he knows what I'm good for. You know what I'm saying? He has a clear understanding of I know this actor, I know what he can really be good for. And, if I feel like that he's good for this role, I definitely would be able to call him in. And he has that kind of process and line of thinking for a lot of the actors that are at Crunchy. You know what I'm saying? So when it came to Piccolo, hyper specifically, to kind of go more into that topic, let's explore that. So
Right. Yeah. Let's talk about that.
I got the auditions for that a little a while ago. I can't really place
it was in the summer, right?
Around that time. Yeah. So I got the auditions for that, and I didn't know it was Daima until I read the NDA. And when they initially said it, they were like, "Oh, there's a special project." I'm like, "Oh, okay." So I saw that and I was like, "Oh, okay, this is my first time going in person to audition at Crunchyroll, because usually our auditions are sent by email." So we went in person to do it, and Rig was just like, "Yeah, man, I have this on your cool show. I got a couple characters for you to be able to approach and whatnot." One of them obviously was Piccolo, and there was other two. There was two other characters. I'm not sure if I can say it whether or not, but there was two other characters that I was also got to audition for and whatnot, which was
Piccolo was probably the biggest one. Because I feel like Goku was Stephanie's. I don't think anybody could have that's I'm surprised if she even had to audition. She told me she did.
Yeah.
I'm a little skeptical if she's being totally honest. She was probably afraid to break her NDA, and that's fine. I would never pry for any information that I'm not allowed to get. But it's Stephanie. You've played this character. But everybody else was open season, is the way I'm seeing it.
Yeah, a little bit open season, but the casting a little bit, like I said, there's only so much that I know. But in terms of it, the casting, did have a lot of actors here and there, usually ones that are profoundly known for playing younger characters and more younger sounding, to be able to match the areas of voices that they probably needed and whatnot. But what I do know is that, this casting decision primarily was, Toei. So I have Toei a lot to thank, for, trusting me with this role and whatnot. Although, Jonathan played a role in it, the producer, played a role in it as well. Toei kind of had that, last and, final, hey, we want them, or we want this, we want that. So, that at least from what I've known, that was kind of the whole process for that. Went into audition for it. A couple of weeks later, I got a phone call while I was sitting in the car about to buy groceries. They were like, "Hey, we want to offer you the role of Piccolo in Dragon Ball Daima." And I was just
Oh my
like,
God,
"What
heart attack. If
the
it was,
hell?"
that's a heart attack, bro. That's like a heart
Oh
attack right there,
man, I
bro.
was like, "What, me?" Because throughout my career, man, I've had a lot of opportunities, for a lot of big stuff come my way, and unfortunately, I didn't book those opportunities. Those would have been very life changing if I would. So I've kind of like meshed within the realm of being rejected and accepted for stuff. So to finally have a role that kind of hit all the bells for me, that it was like, I would say, a little bit non-biased when it came to casting choices because it was thrown at Toei, right? It wasn't like a popularity thing because obviously, like, I'm not that big in terms of like the sphere and whatnot of things. So it was more just like, hey, we think that this person is really good for this role. As from someone just as an actor perspective, and I'm like, yeah, I appreciate that. So I'm also doing my work on the back end, and immediately after booking Piccolo, I'm like, no, I gotta really put the work in, because it's something that I do for any character that I book. I do the due diligence to really put in the work, just as a consumer and as an actor, to do as much research for this character as physically possible. Like, I want to be one with this character and whatnot. So that's kind of where that whole process went in of researching and looking into stuff, watching things and whatnot, to kind of understand who Piccolo is as a character and who he might potentially, learn to become to be in Daima. You know what I'm saying? So there's a lot of stuff that kind of plays around with that mindset, but that's more of like, picking and nabbing at the story a little bit, sorry if it's a little convoluted, but
No. I love it. I love it. And I actually, the big thing I want people to take away from this, there's two things that I would like people to take away from this. First of all, like I mentioned before, you're a young guy. You're 21.
Yeah.
You still got your whole career ahead of you, and you got into Dragon Ball. That's huge. That's just massive. Like, and obviously you being somebody who I would classify as being a new fan, although you're not new.
Yeah.
It's like, I know people, there's different eras.
Yeah.
There's the pre-Toonami era, the Ocean dub, like syndication era. Then there's the ones that actually watched it like before there was even a dub. And I people think I'm from that class, and I'm not. I saw the early dub, but I had some of the episodes in Japanese that were later on. Because when I was a kid, bro, I was so obsessed with Dragon Ball Z. I didn't want to have to wait for the dub. So I had to go to the Spanish dub, the Japanese, because I didn't want to. I mean, can you blame me, bro? Like, they were taking too long to put the episodes out. So, and it was all available. So that's how I got into watching it in other languages. But thankfully now that's not the case. But then you've got like the people who got in with Kai, the Nickelodeon era. But my point is that you've kind of leapfrogged to a huge character, right? So early. And the reason why it's cool, and the message I want to tell people is two things. Number one, sometimes it's not about what you know, but who you know. You don't have to be a brainiac of anime or a historian of Dragon Ball to necessarily be a part of Dragon Ball, because most of the dub actors are just actors. A lot of them came from improv, but I want people to know that your connection with Jonathan is super helpful. And that's why I say you've got to be kind to people. You've got to make connections, and network is important. And number two, you never know what's going to happen in life, because like this is a hell of an opportunity. I do wish Daima was longer, but it's still Piccolo. It's not. It might not be the Piccolo that people remember from Z or from Super, but it's still Piccolo. Like it's Piccolo. And so like the fact that you are so, it's a blessing, man. It's not luck. I mean, you earned it, but it's a blessing still, just even getting that opportunity. I talked to you about this, and real quick, I know there's super chats. Listen, I know that there's super chats. I'm going to get to them. Please be patient, because we're talking. I want to get Nasim's like story here. Because we're trying to tell a story, but I'm going to get to your questions too. Just bear with me. Yeah, they're over here like, where's the super chats? I'm like,
my bad.
We're getting there. But when it comes to Piccolo, I talked to you about this privately.
Mm-hmm.
I was sort of scratching my head a bit because, Piccolo's voice.
Yeah.
Scott McNeil or Chris Sabat, Z or Dub, it doesn't matter, or Z or Kai, it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
He has a very deep voice.
Yes.
And so to do a kid version of that,
initially
I was thinking they were going to take what I thought they were going to do.
Yeah.
Before you had got the part, or maybe you did get it, I didn't know about it. Was they were going to take like Sabat's voice and use like voice modulation technology to raise the pitch a little bit. But then I'm like, does that really sound natural? So I can only imagine how difficult, like, was it difficult for you to come up with a voice that sounds like Piccolo, but just a mini version? I can imagine that's quite a challenge.
That's honestly probably, you hit it on the head initially when you mentioned it on Twitter, and you hit it on the head now. That was the biggest challenge of approaching this role. And, Jonathan, and, he has his own words about it, but, he's told me himself that, Piccolo and I believe another character in the show was probably the hardest to cast for when it came to not only Jonathan's kind of decision, but more Toei, because there was a lot that was a mystery, right? Because there's no definitive frame of reference. I mean, we can go back and really back to like Dragon Ball, where we had like the kind of the Stitch like little Piccolo, but I'm like, can we really do that? You know what I'm saying? I mean, I would love to do that, but, I'm not really sure if that would like kind of adapt pretty well. And there's a lot of like little key notes when it came to who exactly Piccolo Mini is within this frame and stuff. And the hardest thing is that Piccolo is not a kid in Dragon Ball Daima. That's why it's just like it's not kid
He's
Piccolo.
Technically not a kid,
like in technicality,
Piccolo Mini.
It's Piccolo Mini. So like, and a lot of people are just like, oh no, these are just kid versions. Like, no, this is a hyper specific thing that people need to understand about Daima, that these are not kid versions of the characters, that mentality wise, and it's a very strong key note when it came to the performative aspect for Piccolo Mini, that he still is, the same age after like Z, or after like the Buu arc, and mentality wise he's still
the brain
Piccolo,
of an adult,
brain of the adult, and also fusing in with Kami's knowledge and Nail's knowledge is like, okay, how can you take such a mystical character that renownedly across any dub has either had a very low pitch voice or very deep monotone voice, or a very raspy voice, but lower in the register, and how do you kind of kidify that? So essentially what we kind of did, we just relied on what we knew for Piccolo. We understood him, or Jonathan hyper specifically understood Piccolo as a character, and he understood like, hey, does this sound convincing to me? Because I'm essentially, in this show, this Piccolo Mini is kind of a frame of reference of, or more of a proper frame of reference of what a kid Piccolo would sound like, right? So it's kind of more of just like a, hey, for any other future adaptations, I don't know if they're ever going to explore this ever again, who knows with Dragon Ball, right? But it would probably be the frame of reference to that. So we kind of just went on our own, knowledge of it, being like, does this sound convincing? What would Piccolo Mini, or what would Piccolo sound like if he was in the body of a kid, right? What would his voice sound like if he was in the body of a kid? You know what I'm saying? So that was kind of the process within that, whole mentality of like getting the voice. And, for me personally, trusting within, Toei's, input and whatnot when it came to the directions that they provide, which sadly I do have to keep private, but, they did provide additional feedback, via the audition for what they did want and, how they kind of wanted everything and whatnot. So we kind of relied on that with, Jonathan's understanding of the character as well. And, my own instincts as an actor and what I knew of Piccolo. So that's kind of how we ended up approaching it. And, I'm very hypercritical in my performances a lot, revolutionary. I try to take as
That's
much
good.
of an unbiased approach when it comes to a lot of things. So even like in the Daima premiere, seeing the fans' reactions, I take in everything like a sponge, and I've seen a lot of people, talk about Piccolo, how much they love it. I've seen people, like, oh, this could be changed a little bit. I take in everything because I like, hearing people's opinions. I like hearing critique and criticism and appreciation and all of it. I feel like that there's a cool little balance to everything when it comes to that. So, taking all of that in and, really kind of, meshing that within the performance as well. You know what I mean? To truly embody this role and, give the fans overall, what they, want essentially. You know what I'm saying? And like you kind of living up to at least the expectations of who Piccolo is as a character and whatnot, and really trying to go the distance with it. But, overall, I'll say this publicly and I'll continue saying this. I'm putting everything into this. I'm putting my 110% into ensuring that this character is the most properly portrayed that I could possibly do as an actor and performer. That, all the way to wherever we do end with Daima, I'm going to try my best. You know what I'm saying? Everyone's trying their best as well. And personally, as trying to be unbiased as possible, I think people are doing a really great job. You know what I'm saying? So I do hope that when the Daima stuff does come out, that people do enjoy it. You know what I'm saying? And, that we're having a pretty fun time. So, I'm liking everything that's going far.
And the important thing too is to get the cadence down of the character too. Like it's not just the voice; it's also like the way he speaks.
Yeah.
The Vegeta was one that could be. You have to be very specific with that one, and it's challenging. So now again, I am not going to ask you anything that's too inside because. I know there's things you can't talk about, and we're definitely not going to talk about things later or things that haven't come out yet. But I did want to ask you, you said that Toei has some, I know that they're more involved. Did they have to approve your voice, or did they just trust Jonathan?
I'm not entirely. I know that there was some type of approval process that was going on, at least for the episodes. I mean, renownedly, that's kind of the case with a lot of anime that, it's getting approved from somewhere. You know what I'm saying? Whether it's like a normal anime, it's getting approved by the producer of the show, or if it's, an anime like this, it's getting produced or getting approved by somewhere. So from my knowledge, I feel like that there was some type of approval process when it comes to it. I would be surprised that there was just nothing at all. It's always just like, hey, you guys do you, but I think there was like kind of some, like, hey, we want to prove this, we want to prove that, we want to fix this, fix that, but yeah, I think that's kind of the case. Like, there's only so much I know, right? But
right.
That's
no, yeah. And I was just curious if that was like if they, because it's also a different country, different culture. Sometimes there's culture clashes. So that's why I was curious, is that they sometimes have been known. I have said myself that Japan, and it's not necessarily just Toei and Shueisha, but Japan has made decisions that I have felt were very strange. I also feel like this show has not been marketed properly compared to other things they've done. I think the peak Dragon Ball marketing was with Broly. I think when they were marketing Broly in 2019, they did everything right. With Daima, I expected more promotion, more interviews, get you guys out there, get Jonathan out there, really hammer it home. This is, I sometimes feel like, and this is something that actually Tadayoshi Yamamuro, the animator director, has admitted. Like, I don't think Japan truly understands how big this series is outside of itself. Like in Latin America and North America, Canada, I don't know if they get it. Like, they may get numbers that say, okay, well, we sold this many units of Sparking Zero, we have this many views, but I don't think they get that I have always felt that Dragon Ball could actually be bigger in America than it is. And I've always felt that way. And maybe it's because I'm a fan, or I have a deeper understanding of it, or I love it so much, but you know where I'm coming from. Like, I have always wanted this series to flourish, and I have wanted this shit to be on prime time. Like, I've told people, like this could have worked on prime time. Like you could have put this show on in the evening time, and it
Yeah,
would have done
man.
well.
You know,
You know
it's
what I
crazy.
mean?
You know, it's wild because I'm just like I see so much stuff happening with Dragon Ball, at least within the States and whatnot. And I've always felt like that there could have been more, right? You know, for me, I'm trying to do as much as I can, you know, pushing it out from my end and whatnot. I'm learning stuff that there was like little like pop-up events at certain like malls, you know, for Daima and whatnot that I was promoting, like it was called the North American Dragon Ball Daima tour and whatnot that Bandai was doing with like certain malls and whatnot. They had one, I believe, this week. It was in New Jersey, and they had one at the mall and whatnot. You know,
and they had one in Minnesota too.
Yeah, Minnesota as well. You know, so I was kind of like pushing that out. I've been seeing the merchandise available. I've been like retweeting it like hell. I think all my voice actor colleagues are getting annoyed at this point that every single tweet of mine is like Daima related. So I'm like, hey, but I've been seeing the merchandise and whatnot, seeing it come over from the States, and kind of seeing stuff slowly happening. I myself, like I said, I try to approach things from a very unbiased angle. Yes, I do wish that Daima was marketed a lot more better, to be honest. That's kind of my stance on it. I feel like
we
that
all
they could have,
and that's not even a bad thing.
It's not even a bad thing to want. Honestly,
Yeah.
I really do feel like that this show could have been and should be honestly pushed a lot more. I'm hoping that around the time that the English dub does come out, right, in January 10th, that's kind of when they might up the gear a little bit, especially considering that there are a lot of fans that are anticipating Nadoni's performance and whatnot, and just anticipating the double together, that maybe they put a little bit into hyperdrive, but that's a little bit too much to expect, when it comes to, at least where things have been over the years with Dragon Ball, at least from what I've learned of how the marketing has been overall when it comes to the franchise. But overall, yeah, I do feel like that they could have been just more marketing with the show and whatnot. But hey, I have some stuff planned myself when it comes to conventions. I got some stuff planned to be able to kind of, push it out a little bit, at least from what I can do as an actor, right? Kind of maybe potentially putting some panels together, trying to hopefully get in a conversation with people to like really push out this show when it comes to stuff. So I'm gonna try my best. You know what I'm saying? I got some ideas, curating in my own little brain about, how to be able to, approach this, at least with the con scene, right? That's where VAs can kind of, have some, at least some type of influence the most, but anything else, it's just more of like, hey, whatever Toei's does, they kind of, they do.
No, and I just think it comes from like an understand. I think if someday I were to be put in front of one of the executives, I would say, okay, look, like I would give them all these ideas. Like, I'd actually create like a presentation. We can do this. We can do this. Because like, there's no reason to me, man. There's no reason Dragon Ball can't be as big as like Batman. Maybe maybe that's too big, but you get my point. There's no reason why this show, considering the ratings that it did on Toonami, there's just no reason, why it can't be huge.
Yeah, no, exactly.
It's just the way it is. Now, let me get to some of these super chats. I have been wanting to get. I'm gonna ask you more about the Piccolo thing in just a moment, but I want to get to these chats. Okay, so Undertaker 555 says, if Launch had a baby with a Saiyan, do you think it would have the ability to get intense and terrifying Saiyan rage from a sneeze? I love that question, bro. I'm surprised you didn't ask Masako X that question. What? That would be kind of awesome.
Well, okay. So correct me if I'm wrong. Is Launch the character back in Dragon Ball that was with Tien? And it was like that the character and whatnot, that the Tien's girl,
blue hair, she's cool, and then she sneezes and goes blonde, and she goes crazy.
Oh man, I feel like that in terms of underrated characters, talking about Launch and whatnot, Tien is also one of those characters that I kind of wish they got like pushed a little bit more, man. I would think with the whole like demon eye stuff, that we see. I'm not sure when we're talking about the new episode and whatnot, but there was a little bit of the demon, eye, kind of the scenario thing, and connecting it to Tien a little bit, not within the episode, but more like theorizing it, right? Because of Tien's, eye and whatnot, that Tien might get a little bit of a push in the show, right? But Tien, is a character that I see a lot of like really hardcore fans of, and I understand it because the dude can box. I'll say like he's a boxer, you know what I mean?
don't become a fan of his until you see original Dragon Ball.
Oh,
That's when you really get it. You know what I mean?
Man, but the thing is, like the World Tournament, man, I love the aspect of it because all of them are boxing. You know what I'm saying? Like all of them are boxing. I love it, man. As someone that really enjoys that area of just martial art themed anime, for mine, my favorites are like Baki Hanma and like a lot of other stuff. Very like wrestling theme, animes and whatnot. I really do enjoy the martial art aspect of Dragon Ball, and I even see traits of it in Daima towards where that they're like going a little bit deeper and like some martial arts stuff towards where they're not fully relying 100% on transformations. You know what I'm saying? And they're just boxing. I like it. In my opinion, I kind of like when they're just throwing hands. You know what I mean?
Are you a fan of boxing, like real boxing? I mean.
Oh yeah, real boxing. I'm semi. My stepdad was a lot more kind of into that. I'm more of like professional wrestling, WWE. So like a lot of the stuff that was like commenting on with the Dragon Ball stuff.
Am I.
That recently in one of the WWE, I think it was either SmackDown or Raw, that Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods came out and
Goku
and Goku Black, stuff like that. I'm like, that's pretty cool. You know what I mean? So
they came out dressed like Saiyans at at WrestleMania 32. They came out of the box with the armor on.
Yeah, man. I'm like,
and hearing Michael Cole say Dragon Ball Z is just weird to me.
Yeah, it's crazy.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Like it's like a weird sort of clash of like my world.
Yeah, exactly.
Just like how Sparking Zero did that one. I think it was Bad Blood in Atlanta. Yeah. Mm-hmm. This match is sponsored by Dragon Ball Z Sparking Zero. I'm like, this is so weird.
How do you guys know about this? Who does Michael Cole main in Sparking Zero? You know what I'm saying? So I don't know.
Right. Right. All right, Hidden Gem Media says, "Hey guys, just dropping to say hello. Also, PS Truth is I'm not going into that, bro. I'm not going into that, bro. I'm not. Thank you, Hidden Gem Media. I agree with you, but I'm not going into that. It's drama. All right. He also says, Nasim, do you think you could pipe Lord Baramos? Wait a minute. First of all, okay. Speaking of clashing of fucking worlds here, he's talking about Baramos from Dragon Quest 3. I could tell you a little bit about Dragon Quest 3, but
you spit a little bit. Yeah.
Well, why is he saying pipe? You know what piping means, bro?
I do understand. New York slang. You know what I'm saying? So like,
I mean,
you wild for that. You know what I'm saying? But it's all right. I'm not gonna answer that.
I will say this: with enough training, you can pipe Lord Baramos, because I did on my first try. So,
oh man,
in Dragon Quest, Dragon Quest, make it clear. All right, Sosa says, "How did you get started in this dream work?" Oh, we already went over that earlier. Mm-hmm. He sent that earlier, so we already went over that. Mm-hmm. And then he says, Digton literally asked my super chat. As I said it, I did. Well, we're gonna get to it. I want to go between like Daima Now, super chats, and then your story. I want to kind of mix it up. So we get a good
exactly.
Mix. Hidden Gem Media. It says Perezvik versus Chiromancer. Who wins? Also, Nasim, do you like Majin Kuu's design? Mm-hmm. I do. Okay, well, wait. Before we get to that, what is Perendivis? What is that? I don't know what that is.
Yeah, I don't know.
Is that a boxer? Because then we can look it up.
You know what I'm saying? Let me do a Google search right quick, and I might just not have my boxing credentials anymore. People are gonna be like, "Oh, you like boxing? You don't even know what this is."
I like boxing, but I don't follow modern boxing the way that I really would like to. But I love boxing. I mean, watching the fights.
Okay, that's good. It's not a boxer.
It's an anime character?
No, I think it's let's see, Wanderers. I think it's more of like a historic type of thing. I don't know. To pick one, Piccolo will, to smash into the fight and special beam cannon that the whole scene. But in terms of Majin Kuu's design, I saw a lot of people talk about it and whatnot, like share their opinions. Me personally, I mess with it, man. And also, my opinion, I don't think there's enough material currently to actually form a proper opinion about it. I saw this pretty cool thread from a user talking about how initially people, when they saw Jiren's design, that they were a little bit like, a little bit wacky with them. But then when Jiren was like kind of pushed a lot more within Super, and really explore as a character, people were like, oh, that's my guy, that's my dog. I'm like, bro, like, please wait a little bit.
Thank
You know what I'm
you,
saying?
bro.
Respectively.
You realize it's always like this, right?
You know,
it's always like this, bro.
I'm like, bro, like give
Broly's
it
coming back. Broly's coming back. Oh, this is gonna suck. Yo, that movie was dope.
Man.
Oh, wait a minute. So we're not getting cooler. We're getting 2 new androids, but boring. Yo, that movie was awesome. They're turning into kids again, man. We wanted Moro. Yo, did you see that fight with Tamagami?
Man.
Always the same shit.
You know,
dude.
for me, man, like for me, I've always
wait and see.
I've always said that there always is room for proper critique and whatnot. You know, if you don't like something, you don't like something. But
Absolutely.
I promise you, revolutionary with how Dragon Ball has always been, there is a reason, there is something. Just let's explore the world more, right? You know what I'm saying? So I want to see, personally, as a fan, I just want to see more of Majin Kuu before I even just have an opinion, to be honest, because I just saw him posted up like this, and I'm like, yeah, you know, he looks pretty dope. You know what I'm saying? So you know, I gotta see more of him. And you know, given Dragon Ball, there's some theories that he might have. And granted, all these opinions are my own. I'm not like, I have to clarify that all these opinions are my own. These are not like, like 100% like factual things, opinionated and whatnot. Just gotta get that out for like legal. But
yeah,
in terms of stuff.
For you actually work on the show.
Yeah.
So, but I want people to know, like, and obviously in your case, when you work on a show, it can sometimes be difficult to be, I understand that you might get put in a difficult spot if somebody says something like, well, do you hate Daima? Which I don't think that you, I don't think that you do. No. And even if you did, but it's one of those things where, like, if we're being honest, like, there's nothing wrong with disliking a design.
Yes.
What made me laugh was people were like, it looks like a Cyberman. And I'm like, you haven't seen the episode, have you? You haven't seen the episode, have you? Tell me you haven't seen the episode without telling me.
You haven't seen the episode.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, it's also just kind of my formulated opinion on it. I just, like, as a fan, I just kind of want to see more. I understand why people dislike it. You know what I'm saying? But overall, what I would advise to all fans, especially with Daima, because it's new, right? That's the biggest message with Dragon Ball Daima. I feel like that, in my opinion, is that it's kind of its own thing. It's his own new thing that, Toriyama has put a lot of his, blood, sweat, and tears into, man. So I trust Toriyama, man. If they're introducing Majin Kuu like this, they're designing him in this type of way, I'm gonna have faith in it. You know what I'm saying? And if I like it, I like it. And if I don't really like it, I'm not gonna really like it. It's just kind of come down to opinions. But for me, I just want to see more. You know what I'm saying? As a fan, I'm gonna see the next episode, right? Maybe he's boxing. Maybe there might be a transformation. Who knows? I don't. You know what I'm saying? So, there might be more to it. We just gotta kind of wait and see. You know what I mean?
And the thing is, too, and I really want to make this clear to people, and I've talked about this in other places, but a lot of folks say that it's a goofy design, and it's like, yeah, it's supposed to be. Like, first of all, Majin Kuu, I don't believe is supposed to be taken super serious as a villain. Neither is Goma. Yeah. Goma's being built up as the lead villain of this show, and he's a lot more like Pilaf than he is like Cell.
Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes Toriyama likes to make his villains goofy or do goofy things. Yeah. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that a lot of Dragon Ball fans got hooked on the show when either the Frieza saga or the Cell saga. Yeah. And those are the two darkest parts. And so I think a lot of people think that Dragon Ball is super dark. Yeah. And it's really the manga, not so much. The anime, I mean, there are dark parts. Don't get me wrong. There are very dark parts.
Yeah.
But Toriyama's always done designs that are like you know what I mean, like that are goofy and stupid, because he likes to design goofy and stupid. Like he almost likes it more. And if you're gonna do a Majin Buu that's created from the seed of a Cyberman, of course it'll look like a fucking Cyberman. Like, what'd you expect, bro? It's like Cyberman seed mixed with Arinsu's saliva for some reason, mixed with a little bit of the Majin Buu juice. So
yeah, it was just more of a concoction of just like, what else can we put in this? You know what I'm saying? But I mess with it, man. And I honestly, tracing back to the Cyberman, people forget those Cyberman was boxing, like, way back. The Cyberman were throwing hands. You know what I'm saying? Like,
well, they can also blow themselves up. So what if this Majin Kuu does that shit and takes somebody out? Hopefully not Piccolo.
Yeah, exactly.
Lord knows I don't want you to sit at home for another 5 episodes. Bro, you've been sitting at home for like 6 episodes, all right? We can't have
me, as a fan, like I said, I also understand, like, some of the critiques of Daima when it comes to, the pacing and whatnot and all these other things, because like I said, as a fan, I experience it too, and I experience it double as an actor. So, if the pacing is a little bit slower, I also experience that as an actor to where I'm not going in. You know what I'm saying? So, but I also, for me, I'm waiting till just Daima ends to kind of have a full opinion on it as an actor and as a fan, because like for me, and I was even exploring the conversation with Jonathan a little bit, I trust in Daima. There's a lot of cool things that are going to be coming, soon and whatnot. And, it's reasonable to be wary, right? Because just like, it's, it might be a little shorter than people want it to be. I don't, like I said, I can't really say myself, but, in terms of it, I trust the process. I'm trusting the process. I'm trusting Akira Toriyama. You know what I'm saying? And we'll see what happens at the very end. Maybe in that final fight scene. If there is a final fight scene, right? Whatever goes on.
Well, there will be one.
You know what I'm saying?
Final fight scene.
So like just I trust in the process.
It's funny to me because there are 3 major things about Daima that I know that are happening that I haven't said a word about.
Yeah,
and it's just funny to me how certain people think that I know. I don't know every single detail.
Mm-hmm.
But last week on this show, on the Super Magic Show, I did say that one of the Tamagamis would be fighting a character that is not in the main cast.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. Now I'm a prophet. Now we have Majin Kuu being sent by Dr. Arinsu to fight Tamagami. Now, the reason as to why I'm excited about this is because it's funny, because a lot of people were saying, like, and this is not their fault. They're like, well, if it took Goku 8 episodes to get to Tamagami 3, we still have 2 more Tamagamis. So how are they going to get this series finished in time? And I'm like, I didn't say anything because I keep shit to myself, but I'm like, maybe it's not going to go the way you think, because nobody predicted. I didn't see a single person predict that the new Majin would go after the Tamagami. I knew he would. I knew he would, but I didn't see nobody. I didn't see a soul say that. So what's going to happen if while Goku and the gang and Piccolo are in the Demon World 2 and we're learning about Namekians, we cut to fucking Demon World 1 and we got the Tamagami with that cool sword saw. He looks so badass. Like it's Majin Kuu. Like, you know what I'm saying? And the thing is, Majin Buu looks silly. Like the idea that Majin Kuu looks silly and Buu doesn't, like all the Majins that are like that, they're supposed to look goofy. The idea is and this is again, Toriyama has said this. People don't understand this, man. Like, you gotta listen. If you don't want to go do the research, listen to me. The man purposely makes characters look stupid so the audience says, this ain't gonna be shit. And then all of a sudden, what did Kid Buu? What's the first thing Kid Buu did? The first time you see Kid Buu, you're like, oh, he's a little runt, he's short, he's a pussy. What's he gonna do? Blows up the fucking planet. Something that was teased 1,000 times. He did it.
Goes up to heaven and starts boxing with folks, bro. Kid Buu was a very, out of a lot of villains in Dragon Ball, I felt that Kid Buu was one of the most devious, ones.
He was
evil. All the way towards the fact that, I believe it was they named him Super Buu. The Super Buu was like, no, please don't pull it. You know what I'm saying? Like someone's scared of his own transformation. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh man, that whole thing.
Right. He's like, no, I'll lose control.
Man, if it has any semblance to, who Majin Kuu might be, within these, next couple of episodes and whatnot, or just if it's its own thing, man, I trust in the process, man. I'm just excited to see, where it goes, right? Because we still have a lot more to go, right? So I'm just, I'm right there with you. You know what I'm saying? I'm recording the episodes a little bit more back, as the episodes are being released. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, watching it every time it comes out every Friday.
Japanese,
yeah,
and kind of are you starting to get like little ideas like, oh, maybe when I
yeah,
get to that part out, yeah.
there's
nothing wrong with that.
and I'm having little theories too, man. I'm a part of the community with y'all, man. You know what I mean? I have like little theories. I've been talking to Jonathan, my and the engineer Jameson about like, what could probably happen and whatnot. So we're fans of it too. You know what I'm saying? We're trying to, figure out and stuff, predict stuff and whatnot. But yeah, and overall, to answer the super chat, I do mess with Majin Kuu's design, and I just kind of want to see more. Yeah.
Do you think that Jonathan
Mhm.
knows everything already about the series?
I think
Like the
not.
entire thing?
I
was
don't
just
think
curious.
so. I don't think so because there is, I believe, like I said, so much I can say, so much I don't know, but there is in terms of how episodes do get received and whatnot, that's an area of stuff that is kind of out of my own expertise with stuff. But when he does get to the stuff picked up and whatnot, he does his due diligence to really look into it and like really make sure it's like top tier. People don't know a lot about Rig, man, but Rig, he's that guy. He's been a Dragon Ball fan for a really hot minute. If you looked at his initial announcement in his thread talking about Dragon Ball and his experiences with Dragon Ball,
I saw
that entire thread, he talks about it, and that's just like a gist of like how much Dragon Ball means to him as a property, as an IP throughout his life, throughout his own journey. So he has his own comments about that, but in terms of me to properly represent him to the people, speak to the people, Piccolo, I am, or like I am speaking to the people. Jonathan is a really great guy in terms of what he knows about Dragon Ball and what he's doing with Daima, and he really, really cares about this show. And that's also a thing I'll put out, because you explained it before on on the show and also on the videos and whatnot. Everybody that's working on this, they put together an all-star cast all the way in Japan for that, animators and whatnot.
The animators,
they put together an
a lot of good
all-star team, man. And I even feel like that on the dub side of it too. The people that are working on it are also pretty great as well, man. Got a lot of cool people, working on this project in terms of the script adapters and the people that are working behind the engineering of Daima and so many other aspects and whatnot. Everybody cares and loves this show a lot, man. And I'm really appreciative of everything.
No, for sure. And it's funny because I started following Jonathan over the summer, and not a single person was like, "Why is he following him?" Nobody put two and two together, bro. Man. Nobody put two and two together. Sometimes I'll make moves to see if people pick up on it, and people almost never do, and that's good. Yeah. This guy said, "Skip over the super chat." I did not. Now you got your super chat. Okay. Star Blast is a guy who I've worked with a lot. He's been on the show. He's one of my editors. He's also a stop motion guy.
Hell
so the minute you said stop motion, he's all like, I can feel him sweating, bro. I can feel him. He was sweating over hearing that more than he sweats over seeing a beautiful woman, bro. He was like Kenny in Cobra Kai. Oh, please don't kick my ass. Like that was him. He says, Nasim, your upbringing reminds me of mine. I currently do voice acting. Oh, here we go, giving him the resume, bro. I knew this was gonna. I can't believe this guy's I can't. No, it makes me laugh because I expected this, but not from old Heesh. And have wanted to take VA more professionally. Who would I go to? I'm ready. Okay, I will say this: he's a very talented voice actor. This kid can do fucking Frieza, Cell, King Cold. Like he can. He has a very wide range of voices. Obviously, those are already booked, but you get my point. Like. He can do shit with his voice. And here he is fucking, you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of those guys that go up to Sabbath at cons. And this is probably going to happen to you too if it hasn't already. Hey, let me show you my voice. Let me show you my Piccolo impression. Then they do one that sounds like you. Hey, so you think they would get a job?
Wait, no, you can take mine.
No, don't take mine.
You can take mine, man. I'm kidding. But I love
you get my point. Somebody always, I mean, obviously in Sabbath's case, he's like, he's got Okatron, he's the director, he has stroke, but like I can only imagine, and I have a buddy of mine who did audition for Sabbath, and Sabbath was like, okay, I'll get back to you, and he never did, and I'm like, of course not, bro. Like, you know how busy this, like, it's like if you go to Hollywood, or like if you meet, when you go to a con and you meet, let's say, I don't know, Ben Affleck, and you're like, hey, I'm an actor too. It's
Mm.
like there's only so much that can be done. So
Yeah, but I'll speak about it for a little bit.
yeah,
You know
speak
what I'm
about it.
saying?
Go for it.
So, first of all, I love the question, right? For me, I obsess about VA, similarly to a lot of colleagues and whatnot. I consider myself kind of, fairly fresher in the faces of, this industry and whatnot. I still have a lot to learn, a lot to do, so I don't even consider myself to be a teacher or anyone to give, 100% like, yeah, I know everything type of advice. But where to kind of start and where to kind of go if you're really feeling that you're ready, man. The biggest thing that I feel like is applying yourself to the research aspect to what is VO and what you can kind of learn from VO overall, man. Because the biggest thing that I'm doing, the thing that I'm currently doing all the time is putting in research and doing the thing. So putting in the research aspect of it, watching podcasts, videos like these, you know what I'm saying? Crispin Freeman has really great podcasts talking about, voiceover and whatnot. There's a lot of great publicly available resources talking about voiceover and how to be able to explore this, and how to be able to explore that, how to be able to make demos and all these other things and whatnot. So going into that area and really like putting in the work to kind of do the research aspect of hyper specific themed interviews and hyper specific conversations and hyper specific information that revolves about what you want to know. And in terms of actually doing it, there's auditions that are publicly posted a lot of the time on Twitter, on a lot of casting sites like Casting Call Club, a lot of ways to be able to actually being a voice actor, doing the audition process without, having to be confined to, oh, I can't do this yet or I can't do that yet. It's a process, man. It's a step by step thing, no matter, how blessed you might be position wise or how much time that it takes. It's a progression type of career. But, that's kind of what I can say overall in terms of like giving it a little bit of stuff. But if you do want to have more hyper-specific information, man, I'm always available to be reaching out to. Any social media of mine, you can always reach out to me for any advice, man. I ain't going to charge you. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'll give it to you for free. You know what I'm saying? We can have a conversation. We can call if you want. You know what I'm saying? Talk about VA and whatnot. I'm always open. I'm an open book. So whatever you need to know, I can give you what I can. You know what I'm saying? So
I can give you his information if you want.
Yes, sir.
I'm sure he would like that. In fact, he already asked me in the middle of the show. In the middle of the show, all right. All right. So Sosa says, Nasim, can you give us a hint for a cool spoiler? Nothing that would get you in trouble, just something as juicy as you can to the future. It's okay not.
I don't know about
tricky.
That. Yeah, it's a tricky thing. I can't really necessarily give spoilers because at the end of the day, there's not really a lot that I'm like, dubbing that isn't already out, right? The stuff that I'm currently working on, is stuff that's already out already that the fans already know.
The Japanese always do it first.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? But, I'm not going to necessarily, I'm going to reword this question to kind of just make it better for me to answer and hopefully be able to live up to the question itself. I'm not going to necessarily give a spoiler, but I am going to give what I hope for. And I don't know any information myself, but I really do hope that Piccolo Mini gets put into the games of Dragon Ball and whatnot, with Sparking Zero, with Dokkan Battle, with
that's already public. I think he's in DLC Pack 2, I believe. I think they
really?
said that, right?
I don't know.
They said no. They said Vegeta and Glorio.
Yeah, Vegeta and Glorio. I'm not sure.
You're right. I'm not sure either.
Might be a thing, but to kind of not really a spoiler because I don't know anything, but I'm hoping because, like I said, I play Sparking Zero pretty often. I'm like, I would love to hear my voice clashing in the world of Dragon Ball because I feel like that's like the coolest thing ever.
Right? That you'd be directed by Damon Mills.
Yeah,
who I think he started when he was in his early 20s as well. Like he's another guy who I've been wanting to get him on here for a while.
Yeah,
he's another guy who, I mean, you doing Piccolo, he took over Frieza from Chris Ayres. That's another like. Yeah, he's talented. I'm not saying he's not, but it's like if I were voicing a character like that, bro, I'd be like thinking about that shit. Yeah. Like it's different if you're being called in to do a background character to like cheer in the world tournament. But if you're voicing a main like Frieza or Piccolo, and like you are, that's a bigger responsibility.
Bigger responsibility, man. It's a lot of pressure. I mean, to kind of categorize this is the first time that I've kind of been thrown into the hot seat of the public when it comes to analyzation of performance, right? I've voiced a lot of characters over the course of my career with the anime stuff and even going further back with like indie video games, indie animation. But this is like the first like big guy, you know what I'm saying? That I'm like really like putting front and center of. And a lot of articles that I'm seeing, you know, are saying that, oh yeah, you know, there's a little bit of a newer face of the industry. I'm like, yeah, 100% you're correct. So, you know, kind of getting this experience and whatnot, it's a little bit, you know, a little bit stressful, but you know, I love it. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm obsessed with it, right? You know, I told myself that I wanted to be in this position, you know what I'm saying? I didn't know that I would necessarily be in this position, you know what I'm saying? That's pretty dope. But the fact that I am is a privilege, man. The biggest high honor that I could give it to is, you know, Akira Toriyama, right? You know, I can't thank him enough because, you know, without his creation, I wouldn't be doing this, man. You know, I don't know how, honestly, I don't know how big this might be for me yet. You know what I'm saying? Like I, you know, still have a lot to go within the recording process for this. The dub hasn't come out. It hasn't come out on any streaming services yet. So it's been really cool for my career currently. You know what I'm saying? And it might do a lot things more. But if anything, I'm gonna be honest, like that's kind of my second thing that I'm like worried about. My biggest thing when it comes to getting this role is just living by the expectation and hopefully surpassing that. Like I want to do justice by this role, and that is my priority. My career stuff very secondary in terms of my mindset for, you know, how I take in this role and how I take in this opportunity. It's really just like I want to do justice by this, man. Give me a special beam cannon, you know, and I'll show you. You know what I'm saying? So, you know,
Yes.
I'm really trying to do my thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and really, Piccolo is a big mystery. I do believe that he was chosen to be in Daima because he's going to have a big role in Demon World 2.
Yeah.
I think that the Namekians are clearly from that Demon World. I already, in one of my breakdowns, I showed, because it's easy to miss, when they showed that shot of the Glin tree, there's a Namekian ship that looks exactly like the one that Kami took to Earth and Z that we saw at Bulma found at Youngsabit Heights, right? And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, like the Namekians are from there. So I think when Piccolo goes to Demon World 2, a lot of lore, a lot of, you know, and like I mentioned before, like your voice for Piccolo is very reminiscent of Nail, which makes even more sense for Daima because Piccolo himself doesn't know jack shit about his history because Kami doesn't know. Like, but the Grand Elder Guru Saichoro, obviously he's the oldest Namekian we've ever met before Neva, of course. Yeah. He told Nail, and so when Piccolo fused with Nail, he got all those memories.
Yeah.
And so that's where I think he's why when Piccolo said, you know, I don't remember much about it because if you go back and watch Dragon Ball Z or original Dragon Ball, Piccolo didn't even know that he was Namekian. Kami didn't either. It wasn't until Vegeta brought it up. In fact, it's funny you mentioned people, you know, doing their research. I can tell the story now. It's been a number of years. When Sabbath was recording for Kakarot, guess who he texted and was like, hey, Danny, did Piccolo find out about being a Namekian in Z when Vegeta told him, or did he already know? And I was like, no, that's when he found out.
Yeah.
Oh, so man. Guess who he texted? Guess who? But that's a true story, bro. On God, that's what happened. And I don't mind answering those questions. It's just I wish they'd put me in the fucking credits. I would love that. I would love it if
man.
I have done stuff for the Super Dub and for the Broly Dub that people don't even know about and they'll never know about because of me talking to them, bro. I've had conversations with Raleigh about it, and I'm not doing this to like swing my dick around. I'm more than happy to help because he was asking me about like Jiren and sort of more about him because they trust me. But it's like, can I at least get a special thanks? I mean, I would die happy if my name wasn't Dragon Ball,
man.
But yours is. So I'm gonna hate you on that.
As you should. Not kidding.
No. Some people will probably, but not
me.
Man,
no, it's cool. But no, I appreciate it, man. You know, the thing is about it, I always feel like that the biggest part of Dragon Ball, and underratedly so, has been the community, right? The community has done so much. You included, and other creators as well. You know, not only in terms of the involvement of making content content and talking about Dragon Ball, and more or less being the guys that are, you know, promoting this more arguably than a lot of other studios, you know what I'm saying? But, you know, really just putting the work in, you know, to kind of show the love and care and the attention that you guys have for the series and whatnot. And granted, if you guys weren't around, a lot of my research consumption for Daima would not really be there, you know what I'm saying? Because like I said, I was watching creators like you, I was watching other creators as well, theory videos as well, other, you know,
Well, don't trust
exploration,
them.
you know,
No,
you know what I'm saying? Other
I'm
exploration
fucking
of, you know,
yeah.
Piccolo and the character and just the world of Dragon Ball really, you know, for lack of a better word, fusing into the world of Dragon Ball and whatnot, and really associating that within my own knowledge, within like my own brain. So when I'm going in for Mini, I already know what to do. You know what I'm saying? And if I don't know what to do, I can get an idea from what I do or might know. You know what I'm saying? So that was the big thing for me.
It's always like that though, man. Like you're a fan, but like a lot of the actors, it's just like a gig to them. Like people like Peter Kalamis and like Scott McNeil, some of the older ones.
Yeah.
They're not Dragon Ball historians, and fans will ask them, you know how it is, bro.
Yeah.
The Simpsons made fun of it when like you go to a con and a fan is like, yeah, in episode 427, your character said this, but in the Japanese he said this, and you're like, how the fuck am I supposed to remember that? Like, I get it. I get it. So like the fans are always going to know more, and that's with everything. Like I was listening to a podcast earlier today about Full House, the show, and they say the same thing, like, oh, the fans know way more than we do. Like we don't remember because it was 30 some odd years ago, but the fans, they devote their lives to this shit. But you are a fan, so you're kind of like, you know,
you know, dibbling, and that's why I want to make sure, because my biggest thing was just kind of like not only doing that, but just kind of showing that appreciation overall. Because I remember being that fan, you know, going up to like some celebrities that, you know, I've seen, you know, going up to the panel host, you know, my big thing, you know, way back when I was going to conventions was JoJo. So I would go up and ask like JoJo voice actors these questions, and they would be like, I don't really know what a stand is. I'm like, how do you not know what a stand is? You worked on the show. So, you know, at least my, you know, area of it towards where like if I go to a convention, I want to be able to have like dialogues like this so we can go back and forth and just nerd about and geek about it, you know, you know what I'm saying, about, you know, the world of Dragon Ball, exploring Piccolo as a character, and at least me doing my due diligence as both an actor and as a consumer to know as much of the character as I possibly can, because I have the time, you know, I have the time to do it, not other actors do, right?
And you're also young though, and so because of that, you kind of relate to us a bit more than like, for example, Rob Paulson, who does Yakko, and he's done a few like Ninja Turtle voices. Like he's a legend. I mean, that guys like Rob Paulson or like Frank Welker, like those 80s, like before you were born or even before I was born, these motherfuckers were doing voice, and like they're like old, like fucking what's his name, bro? Peter not Peter Cushing. Peter
Cullen.
I'm an idiot. Peter Cullen. He's an older gentleman, and I remember I actually asked Raleigh. I'm like, what do you think if you guys get Peter Cullen to voice Moro? And he's like, we'd love it, but he's like 90. Yeah. And if something happens to him, we're gonna have to replace him anyways. Plus, he's too expensive.
Yeah, for real.
I mean, he is expensive. And that's, when you're Optimus Prime, bro, you can charge like 6 figures. You know?
Exactly. No, that's fair. I'm barely interested to see like when Super does eventually kind of come back and whatnot, who they would kind of get for Granola, for, you know, Moro and whatnot. I've been exploring the manga too. You know what I'm saying? So I'm excited for Super too.
You're gonna audition, right?
Yeah. Oh, you know, if they do, you know what I'm saying? If they send the auditions my way, I'll happily audition for that. You know, I would love to give my take as Granola. You know what I'm saying? I would love to, but you know, give my little shot in that direction. And you know, if that happens, I can see
you doing Granola. I can see it.
You know, potentially. I don't know, but you know, that's a little like shot at the wind, right? You know, in terms
you'd have to be very bitter about what happened to you. But acting.
You know, so, you know, I like that, you know, and it's also like exploring stuff with the Super manga and going back, you know, to comparing it to Daima. I mean, you mentioned it as well. There's a lot to take within the manga that they bring up in terms of the stories with like the Namekians a little bit almost, especially with the Namekian that we see in the Granola arc, you know, kind of exploring that conversation and whatnot, and hoping that they might tie that into the lore of the Namekians that we might get within Daima itself. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, I'm excited. Hey,
the granola arc was the first time we saw Dragon Balls that were less than 7. And
exactly.
now with we got 2 there and the 2 balls, haha, funny.
Yeah.
And then in Daima we've got 3.
Yeah.
So let me get to the super chat. Not a dub watcher, but I will be rewatching Daima in dub. Me too. I'm gonna definitely watch the dub all the way through as well. I wish it was sooner, but I mean that's not up to us. Somebody in the chat was complaining, saying, "Oh, I'm 45, and you know damn well they can do a simul dub." And I in the chat, and I'm like, "Listen, brother, I agree with you, and Nasim does too, but it's not up to us.
Yeah, it's
that's
not.
the decision." Yeah. So he says, because you are so chill. Okay, so you got him to watch the dub.
Yeah.
Shout out Jordan, the Dragon Lee, thoughts and prayers with you. Wait, is he okay? Did something happen to Jordan?
I'm not.
I didn't hear about that.
I'm not sure. I think that more of like a, if I'm not mistaken, maybe just more of like a shout out, and then.
Well, when you say thoughts and prayers,
Yeah,
it
thoughts prayers
like,
means like something, you know.
Something happened, yo. I just sent him a DM and I'm like, "Are you okay?" Because I didn't hear about that, you know.
Okay.
And I talk to that guy almost every day.
All
right, Robert Wolf. This guy has been very critical of Daima before it came out.
Yeah.
And I think now he's starting to come around on it. Hi, Nasim. Just wanted to say massive congrats on landing the role of Piccolo Mini. I cannot wait to see what other series you land in P's.
Yeah.
Extreme in P's? I don't know what
And
that means. He wrote PS. Oh, and PS.
Oh, PS.
I'm an idiot. Extremely excited for you for your closing credits
events. Yeah. So I have a little event that's going on with a closing credits. It's a casting call club and whatnot. I'm doing like a little bit of a workshop, workout and stuff for free because I don't charge anything for workouts and classes and whatnot because I don't really see myself much of a teacher. So they're referencing that. So hey, man, I'm excited to see you there. You know, I'm gonna be talking about voiceover there and whatnot. You know, giving some tricks, tips, and advice, and having a really fun time. But I appreciate the love and everything. When it comes to Daima, and when it comes to kind of exploring the conversation of how initially fans saw the show to how it is now, you know, for me, I enjoy the concept, right? Because I'm just like, I'm glad that Daima can prove people wrong. And, you know, obviously I would be less excited if people were just like, oh man, like I was right. You know, this whole time I knew Daima was going to suck. But, you know, in reality, people are watching Daima and Daima's just proving people wrong, which I like to see. And people are open to changing their minds about it and whatnot, which I'm like, hell yeah. Like that's the aspect of, you know, media and whatnot towards where initial perception is subject to change upon, you know, what gets released. You know what I'm saying? And especially after Daima ends, you know, people might love it even more, right? So it's just more of open to like watching it, exploring it, and like kind of just seeing everything and whatnot. And to comment on the previously comment mentioned by the person there, like I don't really have much control. You know what I'm saying? I would say that 100%. I don't know a lot. And that's not even me saying that it's an NDA thing or not. Like I don't know a lot. As a voice actor, there's just a regular disconnect I have between what I am in control of and what I know and what I can do. My job is to go in and out. Whatever I do outside of that is my own decision. You know what I'm saying? Whether, you know, I explore more of the show and do these things like that. Like that's me, you know, kind of putting my foot out there and really doing it because I really care about this IP and I care about, you know, Piccolo as a character and I, you know, care about the series and the franchise, you know what I'm saying? So that's kind of, you know, me doing my own part to really like explore that. But I don't know, right? And there's not a lot of stuff that like kind of gets said and mentioned because, you know, a lot of it has to kind of do with, you know, the producers and Toei and whatnot. So I'm kind of right there with you in terms of information I know and, you know, what I do know. And there's really nothing I can control and say that, you know, to really, you know, do anything and whatnot, you know. So, you know, that decision is not really tied with me. But I do appreciate, you know, kind of, you know, you still, you know, talking about it and whatnot because, you know, it's a common misconception. So I'm glad I can be able to at least, you know, maybe comment upon that to kind of change your mind about it. But if not, it's cool. You know what I'm saying?
Well, and the thing that I find funny is a lot of times I think people think that like actors, even the ones that are actually actor directors, like Colleen or Sabat or whomever, that they know everything. And oftentimes they don't.
No.
Like I remember when I interviewed Chris Ayres once, it was actually one of the last lives he did before he passed away on this channel. And I remember people were asking him about Super and he's like, he basically was on camera. He goes, ask him. Like me, and I'm like, he's like, he's the one that tells me everything, and I'm like, yeah, and I have. That's what I'm saying. Actors don't always know.
Yeah.
Like, look, I know a lot of shit about Daima. I've known
Yeah.
it for a while, and I've kept a lot of it to myself,
Yeah.
and I've revealed some of it. All I'm gonna say is this: we're not done with Marva. Now that Kuu's been born, now we see Majin Kuu. We're not done with the Marva character. That's all I'm gonna say. If you want a little hint or whatever, that's safe, right? That's safe to say, right?
Relatively,
we're not done with her.
I'm like I said, I'm not really sure myself, right? You know,
and there will be more battles like the one from episode 8.
Oh,
there
man,
will be more.
I can't
wait. That fight was incredible, bro.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I think I forgot if I said it on here. I don't remember, but I know I knew that Sheeta had done it. I knew that. And then when the episode aired and it was fucking Sheeta doing like the last part of it with the Kamehameha, and I was like, man, this is what, bro, it was beautiful.
Oh my God. I can't wait to kind of see, you know, it kind of get put out in terms of the dub and whatnot. Cause I know Nodoni is going to have a really fun time, you know, getting to, you know,
I sent it to her. I sent it to her.
You know, like
I was like, have you seen this? Are you ready to blow out your vocal cords again?
Man, they're gonna have a blast. You know, and honestly, they're gonna give my comment upon it. I'm so glad that Nodoni got to get back on the series, man. You know, people have been talking about it around, but I really want to put emphasis on this. That, you know, like Nodoni is really excited to be back on this series, and you know, it's just so cool, right? Because it's not even just like to the fans. Also, Nodoni herself has just been waiting to come back, right? And then now with this opportunity of Daima being here, this new show, this new world, this new lore, these new things, we get nostalgia with Nodoni, and she's more than excited. I remember chatting up with her at the premiere of the English dub and whatnot. She was full decked out in Daima gear and whatnot. She's been going to conventions, promoting the, you know, the show and whatnot. She's always, you know, posting fan art and whatnot, you know, doing stuff similarly to me, you know, in terms of like, you know, sharing stuff about Daima. So she's super excited. Obviously, I cannot speak for her. I will not speak for her, but from what I know, she's really hyped and really excited to be working on the show. And I'm hyped and privileged to be working on the show with such a legend. You know what I'm saying? Like in this world of not only voiceover, but in the world of Dragon Ball. You know what I mean? So I'm just, like I said, I'm more one of those guys who's like, hey, I'm happy to be here. You know what I'm saying? All glory to God, you know? So that's kind of my whole like mentality of it.
Gratitude, man. Gratitude.
You know?
And the thing with her specifically is that, and I did interview her already, but I want to bring her back on to talk about this Daima story, because this is a huge redemption arc for her. It's no secret. And if you don't know, we talked about it in our interview. It's on the channel. She had to deal with a lot of personal demons. She had a rough time in her life. It's not a secret, okay? For her to have been able to turn her life around and come back to Dragon Ball 15 years later, like that's a great story.
That's a great story.
That's a great, like your story's great, and so is her. It's different, but I think it's a great story because she battled her demons, man, and she won. Yeah, and that's always a beautiful story.
No, it's crazy because I'm just like, you know, I see it like not only just from the fans, but her herself, the way that she's like kind of, because I hear it whenever I'm going in and I'm acting off of her in the show and whatnot, where I did act off of her, you know. As actors, you know, there's this way that we can kind of have this predetermined knowledge of when an actor is having fun in the studio. Different when an actor is having fun in the studio and when an actor is not having fun in the studio, performative wise, you can see that, man. There's a lot of traits and qualities that you can see. They kind of have that determination. Like, is this actor really having fun with this character? You know, what are they kind of doing with that? And Nodoni, at least from what I've heard, she sounds like that she's having a lot of fun, man. And what Rig has told me, she's having a lot of fun working on that. So, hey, you know, I'm just happy to have her there. I'm happy to be there, man. And, you know, I can't wait to see where this goes.
I mean, the thing that's wild is this could have actually been her last chance, because who the fuck, like, let's go back before Daima. Like, who the fuck would have ever imagined that there would be another Dragon Ball mini series, if you want to call it that, where Goku and the gang get shrunk into mini versions. And like, that like, and there's an opportunity for her to come back. Like it
Yeah.
wasn't like Japan created this for her.
Exactly.
They created it for their people. Nozawa has been both Kid Goku and Adult Goku now for almost 40 years.
Yeah.
Right. So it makes sense.
Mhm.
But like there would have never been another opportunity for her to come back. And I'll be honest, I think Rig is a big reason as to why, like, not to say that he played politics to get her in, but I mean, he watched the old stuff and he knows how people feel about her.
Mm-hmm. No, I would have to see, like, because I'm not really sure how much control Rig had over all the decisions being made, because I do know that there was a bigger, because it is such a big show and Toei's involvement and whatnot, so there is like a more larger disconnect of what exactly he can do and what he can't do. But overall, you know what I'm saying? Like the things worked out how they worked out, and I'm glad that they worked out as they did, because like I said, Nadoni's back. You know what I mean? 15 freaking years, man. So I'm just glad. I'm excited. I'm excited to see like where it kind of goes, and also just performative wise as well, to kind of see where Goku goes as a character, throughout this story and whatnot. To see the fights and see everything. But it's gonna be cool.
especially near the end. Like I've been tempted, because Nadolny is my friend. I've been tempted to send her pictures of things that haven't come out yet. But I don't.
Yeah.
I just don't want to cross that line. Maybe later. Maybe when everything's out, we'll talk about it.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm excited to ask you this question, though. I'm so hyped. Hidden Gem Media. Hey, Nasim, hard question here. Would you rather pipe Arinsu or Grand Witch Marba? Why don't you answer too? Be honest here. Marba got back.
That is a very political question. You know what I'm saying?
I'm gonna say this. I'm just gonna say this, brother. I will say this. In my history, I have been with ladies that look like Marba, and I've been with ladies that kind of look like Dr. Arinsu, but not quite with the same proportions. So what are you gonna answer this? This is a hell of a question.
Sadly, I can't, because I think I got family and friends watching. So I'm gonna keep it as PG as I possibly can. So,
I'm light on the cussing myself too. Like I'm not trying to be.
But I think
all I know is Dr. Arinsu, when she first premiered, there was a lot of fan art of her. I saw, bro. She became popular quick.
But in terms of to kind of reword the question, just to be able to allow it to be answered, in terms of characters I prefer more, I really do like Dr. Arinsu's design, man. The aspect of I compare it a lot to Mira and Toa.
It's Toa. It is.
Yeah.
The new Toa.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and I'm like,
literally.
I mess with that, because I used to play Xenoverse and whatnot, exploring that kind of, realm and whatnot, and seeing that, I'm like, wow, this is literally Toa, and, Glorio looks, a little bit like Mira. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, it's just cool to kind of see that design. I'm not sure if there was inspiration from that, but, if there was, redesign and like reimagined of these characters and whatnot, just kind of looks cool. And,
people always ask like, oh, is Toriyama going to put Mira and Toa in the anime or Demigra? And I always say, when it comes to the video game characters, like the ones like few in them, I love those characters, but they're only going to be in the video game universe. But what he could do is borrow from it. And when everybody was yelling GT 2.0, I was the guy who was like, no. Yes, there's a lot of GT in Daima, but there's a lot of heroes in Daima. And now people are starting to get it. Again, I'm a prophet, because now we're seeing Dr. Arinsu and Glorio being the new Mira and Toa. So he does. It's like it's like the Broly thing.
Yeah.
When people say, will Broly, and I hate to use the word canon, but this is the word they use. Is Broly ever going to become canon? That's what people would ask me before the Broly movie. And I'm like, no, it's not possible. The Broly that Toriyama wrote is not the same Broly. You know that. The Broly from Z is not the same Broly as the Broly from Super. Yeah. So because of that, it's not canonizing. That's not what's happening. I like to use the word repurposing. He's taking this character and rewriting the character.
Yeah,
And
and that's it is,
yeah,
and I really do appreciate that, man, because I did kind of see, because obviously I didn't like sit down and watch GT, but I did see videos explaining more of like, the lore and everything that came with GT to just kind of understand the show and understand, the series and the timelines and whatnot. But I did see kind of elements, and people posting tweets of like kind of photo comparisons of like, between GT and Daima. And I'm like, because I would say that there was parts of GT arguably so that I've seen fans say that were, pretty cool. And, have it kind of be reimagined and almost recreated to be put into this
maybe done
show.
better.
Maybe done better. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, I really do mess with it. You know what I'm saying? And especially with Daima, being perceived as, the canon, word and whatnot, kind of being within the proper timeline of what people will perceive once again as canon, I feel like that's pretty cool to take those elements from something that once again, people feel like that is non-canon and put it into the canon kind of timeline. You know what I mean? So that's kind of the way that I would put it out there and whatnot.
Right. Because it's element. It's not Broly.
Exactly.
It's such a different character.
Uh-huh.
So that's fine. Robert Wolf says Goma's design is hideous. Kuu looks fine. I like Goma's design.
Goma's design is honestly, he's just like a goofy guy. I feel like that Goma's design matches.
People seem to forget how goofy Toriyama is. They don't get it. Like
Emperor Pilaf was around so much in like just Dragon Ball and whatnot, and so many goofy characters were around in Dragon Ball and whatnot. So like, it's very, you said it, but it's very Emperor Pilaf coded and whatnot. And I feel like that, having this, fresher villain to the space towards where he's not like 100% serious, and he's just more of like a little bit cartoony. And I don't know, that might change a little bit going into a final battle kind of scenario and whatnot in terms of how serious he might get and how goofy still might remain. But I like the goofy aspect because at the end of the day, that's Toriyama. You know what I mean?
And let's not forget, and we're going to talk about the third eye.
Yeah,
because I was not expecting Hybis to have that third eye
in his belt.
In his belt. I thought that looked like a Saiyan space pod when I first saw the like, is that the round with the thing in the middle, like almost like a titty, right? Excuse me. But now we know that he has the eye. So clearly, look, this is not a spoiler.
Yeah.
It's just foreshadowing.
Yeah.
One of the bad guys is going to get the eye. Like it's you don't have to be a leaker or even an actor to know that. Like one of the bad guys is going to get the eye.
Yeah.
Maybe Goma, we'll see. But what do you think about the this third eye? I have more questions for you from the super chats, but what do you think about the third eye lore? Because from what I understand, from what I was told a while ago, if and I said this on Twitter, if Dabura had that third eye, it gives you such a power up. He would have killed fucking Kid Buu. He would have killed fucking Super Saiyan 3 Goku. I don't know about Vegito. Vegito is really strong.
Exactly.
But when it comes, basically, Dabura would have soloed most of Dragon Ball Z with that third eye. So that thing's going to give you a power boost. And obviously, if a villain gets it, it's going to take probably the whole team working together to knock the villain out. So what do you think about like the third eye, bro? Yeah, as a fan.
I love the concept because of how many paths it creates to what could possibly happen. You know what I'm saying? Usually when it comes to storytelling, there's usually just like big bad villain. The heroes in the story, the heroes are going after big bad villain. But in this, there's so many paths. We have the stuff that's going on with Glorio and Dr. Arinsu. We have Dr. Arinsu herself, and with Majin Kuu and what get explored in that area. We have Goma. We have Degasu. You know what I'm saying? We have like certain little paths of what could possibly happen, and all of it is getting linked to this third eye. You know what I mean? So I'm kind of excited to kind of see, who one gets that third eye, and two, would it really take everybody to kind of go against it? Because hypothetically, let's say maybe Goma was able to get the third eye. Would Dr. Arinsu be like, hey, I'm going to team up with Goku and all these people, temporarily to stop Goma and, get rid of, there's so much mystery around it. And I like it as a fan. I don't like, at least as a fan of myself, I like stuff being like mysterious and like
me too
interpretation, right? I don't like to be able to predict every single type of thing that
I agree.
comes of stuff. So I like the fact that it's mysterious. I like the fact that we don't really know too much about it because it's something that we can explore. And most likely, especially with how lore heavy Dragon Ball Daima has been, it will be explored. And most likely, I feel like that, the third demon or the demon eye might be an element that people might use going into Super's continuation, especially considering the fact that there's a
Interesting.
lot of traits of Daima that you've publicly said yourself, and a lot of people have theorized that people are going to take from Daima going into Super's continuation and whatnot when it comes to characters, concepts, lore, and a lot of other things. So I think that, the demon eye might be something that might be explored a little bit more deeply, into going into Super's continuation, especially after, or maybe even during the whole Black Frieza arc, you know what I mean? So I'm kind of excited to see where it goes. I like the concept, I like the story behind it, so I'm kind of just waiting to see.
Yeah, I don't know how the third eye is gonna like. You might be right. I don't know if that's exactly what's gonna be coming in later on, but I do know it gives you a power boost.
Yeah.
And the reason why I like that is because I always was a fan of Dragon Ball of like artifacts. Like I love how in Marvel you've got the Cosmic Cube and the Infinity Stones. So Dragon Ball creating this magical eye that you put on your forehead and you get this incredible power up. Like I like that it's not just Goma's gonna train and transform like Frieza, or he had a secret form the entire time or something like that. I like that it's an artifact that powers you up. Like I love it, bro. I actually wanted them to do something like this for years. And here we go. So
no, it's fair. I like the artifact concept of it. And you even brought it up that the story has a lot of like Star Wars-esque traits, and we even like talking about that in the studio a little bit, in terms of like how similar it kind of goes into that concept and whatnot when it comes to like just element and whatnot that is being explored within Daima and whatnot. So to take something like the evil eye and it, kind of having it being like an elemental power up, similarly to other stories like Marvel and Star Wars has even had a little bit in pieces towards where there's been certain stuff that kind of allow you to be able to grow as a Jedi or other things. You could arguably say that a lightsaber is an element, to be able to kind of give someone more maneuverability when it comes to the Force, you know what I mean?
So Glorio's doing the fucking Force lightning, and I'm
the
like,
Sith.
I'm like, what is this, bro?
Oh man,
well, what have we walked into?
God, let me see Count Dooku, come into Dragon Ball Daima.
I love Count Dooku.
Oh man.
Or Grievous. Grievous as the android would be pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Sosa says, seeing Baki the grappler, Hanma Nasim.
Yeah.
It's some of the best martial arts anime ever. Gotta start with the Funimation dub though. Geekdom 101. You should binge it all for your watch party. Seriously.
Yeah.
I've been told that it's good. He's actually an MMA fighter. This guy.
Oh, really? Oh man,
retired, but he did fight in the cage.
Oh man, that's crazy. I did watch Baki. Baki is one of those things towards where I like when anime explores, because I like when anime is anime, right? Because anime itself is a very goofy, over dramatic-esque genre when it comes to stuff. So taking sports and making over dramatic, taking areas of martial arts and over dramatizing it, it's fair. And Baki does that very, they try to be serious with it, but it's very laughable at times. So it's where they're exploring like, a character punches somebody in the mouth and you're like, oh, that ability was used thousands of years ago by a random guy in this show. So I'm like, they try to be serious with it, but
I love it.
The concept is goofy. But yeah, I did watch that. I watched that. I watched Kengan Ashura, also a really good, fighting anime. I think they also had a collaboration together recently that was on Netflix. It was Baki versus Kengan Ashura, which they kind of merged the verses a little bit, which I got to watch, but I heard that a lot of people enjoyed it and whatnot. But yeah, I did watch that, and I really did enjoy that. Troy Baker does a really great job at voicing Baki, bro. Like, holy man, I love seeing Troy in anime because he does. Oh man, he does his job.
I actually wanted to ask you, we have more questions, but I wanted to ask you just in our talk, who are some of the people in voice that I don't like saying the word look up to, that's just, but people that you who are some of your favorites that you admire, legends, or even people that you don't have to necessarily work with them, or who is somebody you would like to work with?
Yeah, I'll give you my top 4. So, One, it would have to be Bryce Papenbrook. Bryce Papenbrook has been in the game for a very long time, arguably one of the most casted when it comes to lead MCs, purely just because of just how, how great he is as a lead. He's played, Eren Yeager in Attack on Titan and a lot of other roles and whatnot. So Bryce has always kind of been a heavy inspiration just because of like how obsessive he is when it comes to like the career and whatnot and things like that. Two would have to be Sabbath. Sabbath over the course of my own career, I've looked up to in
might now that you're in
a million of different ways and whatnot. Sabbath, I was able to have a conversation with him back.
I was going to ask you if you talked to him about Piccolo.
I haven't yet. He's a very busy guy. I haven't talked with him about Piccolo yet. One of these days will happen. I'm not necessarily, barging his email being like, oh, look what I did. Maybe that, will come in later time. But I did have conversations with some people about it. Damon Mills, Sean Schemmel has, given me his flowers, or given me flowers when it came to the role and whatnot. So certain people within the space have like kind of shown their appreciation and whatnot, which I'm like,
Sean is very picky. So the fact that you got flowers, like, he's super picky.
Man,
I can tell you that.
I appreciate it, man, because people like Sean and Chris, I've met when I was like very younger into my career, back in like WeebCon and whatnot, having conversations with them when I was a guest doing MCing for panels and whatnot. So I had a conversation with Sabbath about voiceover and about this, had conversations with Sean about voiceover and this, to now be in Daima. Because it's funny, because one of the last messages that I sent to Sean, it was on Instagram, was that like I was giving him like flowers and whatnot for, giving me advice and a lot of things. And the last thing I said, it was like, hey, man, I really do hope that we get to be in a show together. And now, this, what I'm saying? Like, wow, man, God works in a lot of mysterious ways. So to have this opportunity.
You technically were, I mean, you're not in a show, but you are. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Episode 1.
Very technically, you know what I'm saying? So I'm like, it's there, you know what I mean? But I'm like, it's just dope to kind of do that. So going back to it, Sad would be number 2, definitely. And 3 would have to be Zeno Robinson. Zeno Robinson has just been the face of a lot of, POC representation when it comes to media and whatnot. He's been killing
people of color, by the way.
People of color, doing his thing when it comes to that very large, very big force within that space. And then 3 would have to be Aaron Dismuke. Aaron Dismuke was a very big inspiration to me because he's started
Glorio.
He's Glorio. And he started very young too when he did Alphonse in Fullmetal Alchemist. I think that he was, very young too. I think around like 13, that area of the stuff. So like I inspired to that, especially being young in this industry. I'm 20 as of right now, and I entered Crunchyroll at 18.
I thought you were 21.
No, I'm 20, so
you're even younger, bro.
Yeah.
40, brother.
Man, but no, like I said, so like having someone like that to have some type of frame of reference to when it comes to being young in this industry and seeing where he went from his beginnings to where he is now is it's super inspirational, man. But yeah, there's a ton that I can give reference to, but that would kind of be like my top 4 to kind of categorizally put it, in my like a point of view.
No, that's fair, man. That's fair. Let me get to these and I'll ask you what I was going to ask you. Okay. Yeah. Yash says, what was your process in finding Piccolo's voice? See, I thought that Sabbath pulled you aside and was like, okay, so, but you're saying it didn't happen. So what was we talked about it earlier, but is there anything else you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, in the audition process, I can kind of like go into that hyper specifically. So in the audition process, I was advised, it's just kind of rigged, just more of a directional thing to kind of be 1 foot into the Japanese and 1 foot out of it. So we were like listening to the Japanese performance of Piccolo Mini, having a little bit of a foot into that kind of area, just voice tone and in terms of just youth, and a little bit, further back in terms of like Sabbath stuff, you know what I'm saying? So kind of a blend and a mesh between the two. So that's kind of the direction that we kind of went for. And, we made sure to just make it sound as young as possible, because I think the thing I've been seeing, and people were just like, oh yeah, Piccolo sounds like a teenager, like not really like young. But the thing is, Piccolo himself sounds like he's 50. You know what I'm saying? Like Piccolo sounds very, very,
even though at the beginning of Dragon Ball, he's only a couple of years older than Gohan.
Yeah, exactly.
Because he was birthed.
Yeah, man. So revolutionary. He's always kind of sounded a lot more monotone than a lot of other people, considering that his age was like, relatively around, his age has always been like a questionable thing within the franchise and series. But, in terms of of it, that I took that kind of voice being like, okay, if he has that very monotone voice, then I don't think that his like kind of younger voice would be incredibly young. You know what I'm saying? I feel like that there would be a little bit of traits of being a little bit teen-ish, even if he's not a teenager.
That's
you know what
true.
I'm saying? So, I feel like that's an aspect that not a lot of people have kind of seen, just like playing around with the age of it, because, age-wise, Piccolo has been, I'm saying, like, it's kind of hard to kind of really like put that
and
together.
He's not human either.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
when you got an alien, you can't get to play with it a little bit more.
Yeah, exactly. So there was a lot of like more of like playing around with the process, but mainly it was just, kind of abiding by who Piccolo was as a character, finding the characteristics of him, and then bleeding that into the voice itself. So acting, or at least voiceover wise, is always, kind of told by other actors that it's not really 100% to the voice. It's more of the acting, and you let the voice find itself in its own way. But, with something like Piccolo, there was a blend of a lot of things, right? So being able that we matched up to, where the voice would probably be, to the characteristics, to the cadence, right? The cadence was the hardest part, because Piccolo's cadence was, very melodic. He sounds like he's telling a poem every time that he talks. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, it's, every time he talks within the franchise, every single thing that Piccolo says can be put into a monologue, or at least a famous quote, so
it's kind of like fortune cookie.
Yeah, exactly. Right? Everything that Piccolo says, whether it's just like a sidebar, like one thing, even like his reaction.
Roshi too. All the hardcore martial artists have that vibe. That exactly. Mr. Miyagi.
Yeah, man. Like he's like very like he's the essence of thinking before he speaks. You know what I'm saying? And like he just knows what to say, and like taking that and still youngifying it and all these aspects and whatnot. It was hard, but we kind of just, I just trusted my director. I trusted Jonathan. I trusted his input. I, put a lot of faith into his direction and the way that he kind of wanted to see it, and, took aspects of what I thought would be cool and whatnot here and there, but mainly relying on the guy that, is the director. You know what I'm saying? Like having that balanced relationship and whatnot. So that's kind of the way that I approach that, to kind of give a full answer,
Yes. No, that's fair. All right. Junior says, Hasim, what's your favorite? Or Nasim. I thought he messed up the name. What's your favorite anime as a teen versus now?
Ooh, okay. So my favorite anime a little bit back then. So honestly, anime, I admitted this in an interview. I was an anime hater before COVID. I was one of those people that hated anime. Because listen, I grew up a little bit like in Florida, right? At least in the school days. Anime,
what part of Florida?
It was Orlando.
Oh, you're
Orlando.
That's about 45 minutes away from me.
Yeah, Orlando, Florida. That's a little bit. So a little bit in my school and whatnot, in terms of, what anime was seen as and whatnot. I wasn't really that into it. I had a group of friends that were really into it. Shout out my boy Tyshawn, Zahir, and a lot of other people that were back with me back in high school, which was, I think, 3 years ago, so it's not that, far away.
Yeah, bro. You just graduated a little while ago.
Yeah, a little while ago.
Wild to me, bro.
So, back a little bit then, they were always talking about anime and whatnot. It's like, you guys are stupid. That's cringe. But then COVID hit.
I was in high school when they still had Coke machines in the school before Michelle Obama took them out, bro. I don't want to age myself, but you know what I'm saying?
Like, that would have been really cool to have, you know what I'm saying? I'll probably be a little bit on the bigger side if I had that.
Sugar rush.
Sugar rush, yeah. So, but COVID just kind of forced me to sit down and to be more open about the material that I was watching. So the first anime that I picked up was Naruto. I picked up Naruto in the very beginning, and Naruto was the anime that did it for me. I was just like, whoa, like there's so much to anime that a lot of people don't understand, especially coming from the mentality of someone that used to be a hater. My pre-perception of it was just like, oh, it's cringe and whatnot. But I'd say that and then love Boondocks or love the Avatar: The Last Airbender. So I was a hypocrite. You know what I'm saying? Because like they would take elements from it's like kind of a little bit of the same, kind of like category a little bit. So I was just like, I watched.
Well, your hair tells me that you like Boondocks.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So I'm like, going into it and whatnot. I was like, man, like the stories that these the creators kind of put into the show, the kind of development of these characters and whatnot, the arcs and all these like beloved things that just kind of make anime what it is, not only as a media but just its own separate thing. And I have to explain this, even to my family that's watching, the interview and whatnot. Anime is not just one thing; it's a genre. It's no different than saying movies or video games. It's not one thing. It's not so black and white, and that's something that I had to understand. Learning to become an anime fan, that there's so much of it that you can kind of explore and whatnot. So going back into the conversation, favorite anime back then was probably Naruto, because that's kind of where I started off. And
That was your
favorite
gateway drug.
that was my gateway drug, exactly. So my favorite now, would probably have to be JoJo Bizarre Adventure. I'm a big JoJo fan. I'm a very big JoJo fan. I cannot wait for Steel Ball Run.
I thought you were going to say Daima.
I would say Daima, but like I said, I tried not to be as biased as possible. You know
No,
what I'm
I
saying?
know.
But
People
Daima
would say
is
it, yeah.
up there 100%, because as a fan, not even from an actor perspective, or a little bit from an actor perspective as well, I enjoy the series a lot. I feel like that, if I, didn't even book Piccolo and just kind of watched it on my own, that it would allowed me to explore like Dragon Ball, even more intensely than I did upon booking Piccolo. And I feel like that's what Daima, is kind of trying to do as well, being a little bit more of a gateway drug, a little bit to newer fans that might not, like enjoy Dragon Ball, or might not, see Dragon Ball. Because not a lot of people like to go and watch OG Dragon Ball. That might be because of animation stuff or whatever it might be. But I feel like that Daima, especially after it comes out and relatively, due to its shortness and whatnot, that would be something consumable for the mass majority of fans that regularly don't, have seen Dragon Ball or watch Dragon Ball, or just kind of want to be introduced to the series in a very, light way. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like that Daima can kind of enact that. So I'd say JoJo, but publicly it would kind of be a mix between a lot of other things as well. And Daima is definitely within that conversation as well.
With JoJo, I've only seen part 1, believe it or not. And it's funny because everyone's like, skip part 1. And I hate when people say that.
No,
because
man.
that's like saying skip OG Dragon Ball. I hate it. And I watched part 1 and I liked it. Yeah. And I know it gets better later, but Dio is such a hateable villain, dude.
Man.
And I know he comes back later. I know the whole thing. I just he is such a prick, bro.
Yeah.
I liked it a lot. I liked it, but I'm also a fan of Fist of the North Star. And there's a lot of Fist of the North Star in part 1.
Yeah, exactly. I never really recommend to skip part 1, man. I don't understand why fellow JoJo fans do that, because I'm just like, bro, like, just try to go through it, man. Just like try to, like,
it's not even that long.
It's not even that long. That's what I'm saying too. So Dio is one of those characters that I'm like, yeah, he reminds me of like very hater mentality, reverse Flash, almost characteristic wise, towards where he's just like a generational hater. And I love those types of characters, man. So, that's kind of what I would say in terms of breaking it off into talking about anime.
Thank you, Santi. All right, and then Hidden Gem Media says, who's stronger, Rolando from Dragon Quest II when he gets sick, or Majin Kuu? Nah, in all seriousness, Rolando sucks big time. He screwed up my save file. Had to do the side quest with Japanese ROM translation patch glitch. Okay, I know what he's talking about.
Okay.
Yes, in the Super Nintendo... This is fucking not what we're talking. This is not what you and I are talking about, but I'll talk about it. In the Super Nintendo version of Dragon Quest II, the ROM translation is glitched to where if you do that side quest where Rolando gets sick, it fucks up your save file. Brother, it happened to me when I was younger too. That's why I tell everyone, if you're going to play Dragon Quest II on Super Nintendo, if you're going to play that version, make sure you do not do that side quest. Don't take it. Don't sleep at that inn. Yeah. Let me ask you though.
Yeah.
I know that Daima has a lot of JRPG elements. Are you a fan of JRPGs? Or did you ever get into them?
Man, I don't really think I got heavily as into them as others. I mean, I am, a gamer myself. I played a lot of, games. Category, I have to like kind of see what examples of JRPGs would kind of be in terms of stuff.
Like Dragon Quest, Final Fantasy, Persona, those type of games. Pokemon.
Pokemon. Yeah, obviously. You know what I'm saying? But like, other stuff. Yeah, because I have voiced in JRPGs and I have like, played the games a little bit. And I do relatively enjoy that whole like adventure aspect. Whole, the concept of it. I do enjoy. I am gonna kind of look into it more, especially with Persona and Final Fantasy. Those are areas of stuff I gotta like really jump back into. My areas of games always kind of be shooter likes and more of like story driven ones. Favorite game series of all time is Uncharted. I love the Uncharted franchise.
I love Uncharted, bro.
Uncharted.
I fucking love those games. Holy shit.
Uncharted
I played the first 3 on stream and I started the 4th one but never got to finish it.
Oh man, Uncharted was really great. I love like the old God of War games, even the new stuff that's come out. Elden Ring has also been really great. played. So like, I've explored my genre of stuff, being more open-minded to the games I've played and like, really kind of, seeing stuff right now. What I'm playing right now is Marvel Rivals, and Marvel Rivals has been pretty dope in terms of, what it's been doing and whatnot. It did a really great job off of release. And, I've been picking it up and just playing and just, going with a Punisher and trying to do my thing, honestly.
Yeah, no, I haven't played Marvel Rivals yet. I mean,
Yeah.
I loved MVC too, but
Mhm.
I always make comparisons to Dragon Quest
Yeah.
because there's a lot of Dragon Quest in Daima.
Yeah.
I did a long tweet thread recently where I talked about how the final villain in Dragon
Mhm.
Quest 3 is Zoma,
Uh-huh.
which sounds a lot like Goma, but he doesn't look like him.
Yeah.
And he's got a third eye in his helmet. And so it's
Wow.
a very similar idea. Yeah. And
Oh,
he's
shit.
also like a powerful magician. So
Uh-huh.
there's a lot. And then in Dragon Quest 2,
Mhm.
the final boss is, and this is not in the English translation because,
Yeah.
as you know, it's somewhat censored,
Yeah.
but he's a god of destruction.
Yeah.
And the guy you fight before that's called the Grand Priest. And I did a video on the channel called Toriyama's First God of Destruction.
Yeah.
And it was a way for me to sneak in a Dragon Quest video and a
Yeah.
Dragon Ball channel and have them
Uh-huh.
watch it.
Yeah.
But it's not clickbait. Malroth was Toriyama's first god of destruction, even though it was, in 1988 or whatever,
Yeah.
87.
Mhm.
So I love that. I
Yeah,
love
that's fair.
whenever things go from one to the other.
Mhm.
Robert Wolf, Demigra gets the third eye, calling it now. No, he's not in the show, but maybe in the games. And then he says, Majin Kuu or Kuu better, if better they fuse, better say twice the pride, double the fall in the dub, or I'm done. He's talking about fucking Dooku. I can't comment on some of that because some of that
Yeah.
is leaked information.
Mhm.
And I promised I wouldn't talk about leaks on this show. So go back to the video I did on 9/14. So Rabbit Core said, are you going to cover the Super Saiyan types in your transformation guide? I already did that.
Man.
Unless he's talking about, okay, I think I know what he's talking about.
Mhm.
So on Dragon Ball Wiki,
Yeah.
they, for some reason, I don't know why,
Yeah.
they have like Kale's Super Saiyan as Super Saiyan type C
Oh, really?
or something like that. And they have like Broly's like type A. Listen, none of that shit is in the series. It's something they came up with.
Uh-huh.
I'm not saying it's bad.
Yeah.
It's a fan-made name.
Mhm.
But I've already covered those transformations, just not as type A, type B. If you go through a transformation guide, you go to Super Saiyan Berserk.
Mhm.
That's the Kale form that, because really it's called Super Saiyan Berserk.
Yeah.
That's what it's called. I believe it was Super Saiyan Berserk or Super
Mhm.
Saiyan it's covered, but the
Yeah.
point is that, they call it like type C or whatever.
Yeah.
So I think that's what he's talking about.
Yeah.
I think so. It's just don't get it twisted, bro. The Dragon Ball Wiki's okay, but they do sometimes take liberties. Sosa says, yes, Kangen Ashura discount Baki is awesome. I became an even bigger fan of you, Nasim, for your reply. Last chat for today. I'll find you on Twitter. I guess it means Twitter.
Yeah, Twitter. Hey, man, appreciate it. Like I said, the fight anime stuff has always been something I kind of been doing. I put my stepfather onto some of them, and he's granted he didn't really enjoy anime all too much, but when watching Baki back at home, he'd be like, oh man, they really boxing for real. I'm like, yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like they do box. That is an element of what they do. You know what I mean? So that I really do enjoy those fighting animes, and I'm glad that once again that Daima is like taking its taking more of a martial artist way of going about doing things and whatnot. And
do you like Hajime no Ippo?
Oh, I have to watch that. Oh man, that's one of the things I have like on my watch list. I gotta watch.
I've got
that,
the entire
man.
series and I haven't watched it yet.
Oh man, no, I
need
gotta
to.
watch it. I've seen so many like cool like videos and whatnot of like some of the fights and whatnot. And obviously,
the animation is crazy. Crazy. Have you ever watched Street Fighter 2V? It's one from the 90s, so I'm not sure if you ever heard of it.
Probably not, but I've seen like Street Fighter stuff available though.
That's the best Street Fighter anime.
Oh.
Like there's the Street Fighter 2 94 movie.
Yeah.
That's an incredible fucking movie.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the 97 anime, which was done by the animation supervisor was Minoru Maeda.
Yeah.
The same guy who did Dragon Ball into the first half of Z. He's fucking phenomenal. He's my favorite animator of all time.
Really?
Street Fighter 2V is an old anime. If you watch the dub, it's got actors that I don't even think are even in the business anymore. It was done by Manga Entertainment, which I haven't heard that name in forever, dude.
Jesus.
But they were the kings in the 90s. Like when Funimation was still doing Cyborgs and Chuck E. Cheese, Manga Entertainment was dropping the anime goodness. But yeah, Street Fighter 2V is so good. And some of those fights, bro, wild, like fucking wild. Yeah, sorry for cursing your families there, but
no,
I mean,
you're good. You're good.
I get excited, bro.
No, that's
so.
fair.
Yvonne Roman says, we just wanted to say we're super proud of you, Nasim. Oh, you know these people.
That's
this is your aunt Tab and grandma.
Yeah.
Oh my God, your grandma's on here, and I said the F word.
You're good. My God. You're good, man. You know, she hears it, you know, often. So like,
it doesn't matter, man.
It doesn't matter.
Bro, when you said your family was watching, I'm thinking like your little brother.
Nah.
Like I'm thinking like, you know, like people around our age group, but your grandma. I'm so sorry.
No, you're good, man.
Sorry.
No, listen.
I wish you would have told me this.
No, it's cool. It's cool. No, because like I gotta give a shout out to them, man. Like, you know, my family has been obviously one of the biggest reasons that I get to do what I get to do today. I mean, without them, you know, without the stuff that they've done over the course of my life, I wouldn't even be able to have a right to say that I was, you know, privileged, you know, growing up with time and, you know, with resources and stuff that I've been able to receive. You know, without them, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be, you know, living down here. I wouldn't still continuing to be living down here. I probably wouldn't even, you know, have the resources to explore the world of voiceover without, you know, their help, you know, both financially and both, you know, advice wise as well, man. Those are my biggest supporters since day one, you know what I'm saying? And they're even bigger supporters now after seeing everything with Daima coming out and, you know, things coming out, man. So I'm grateful to my family for them, man. Like, without them, I wouldn't do what I do. And obviously, you know what I'm saying? So that's a big thing.
I'm still very sorry. I'm still very, I did not know. I swear I thought it was like your cousins, because you're Puerto Rican, bro. So you probably got 100 cousins. Like, I know how that is. I'm Hispanic. Like, I got tons of cousins. They're all in the La Isla. They're all on the island. But I thought that, like, you know, but I didn't know it was like older people. Like I always, when I'm around older people, bro, I always like, I'm very respectful, bro.
Yeah, but you know, they're not that old, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, they're good, you know, in terms of that.
They're adults, bro. They're not like, you know, they're not like teenagers, you know.
Yeah, no, I get you. know. I'm glad that they came on here and started, you know, watching it and whatnot. But now,
thank you for the super chat. Really, it means a lot to me. But still, I'm still like, I apologize. I really do. All right, Gabby says Attack on Titan, Vinland Saga, and Fullmetal Alchemist are the ones you should watch at some point in your life. If you ask me, DB is number one.
Yes.
I'm not sure if that's for me or for you.
I'm not sure. I mean, I've watched all three. Fullmetal Alchemist,
I was about to say,
you know, Vinland Saga, I've definitely watched. I'm excited to see, like, you know, when Vinland goes. I'm not sure if the season's done, but I think they're still doing it. Attack on Titan as well. Other stuff, like Dr. Stone is also, that's coming back. I freaking love Dr. Stone. Aaron
That's a newer one too.
You know, Aaron also plays the lead in that one, man. Senku Ishigami, and I, you know, love this one. I'm an anime fan now, right? You know, this is how, you know, invested I am into stuff. Not a lot of actors are, and I honestly I understand it, right? Because, you know, we work in it, you know, we do it and whatnot, but I'm still an anime fan. I've watched a ton of stuff, you know, mainly the bigger stuff, but, you know, I've seen my good hand of things, and all three of those are freaking amazing.
Right. No, and I have not seen those. I've seen Full Metal.
Yeah.
But I have not seen. People have been trying to get me into Vinland Saga for a while. The thing with me is I'm not okay. I'm an anime fan, but I don't watch a lot of anime. Like I just never get around to it. I'm more of a movie guy. Like I'm a film guy. Like I love films. Like long TV shows are hard for me. Like I got a buddy of mine who wants to get me into Sopranos, and I've seen a few episodes. Yeah. I know it's good. It's just that, like, I like films because it's like you got your 2 hours, the story, like, you know, you're done.
Yeah.
TV shows are longer. And I know Dragon Ball's long, but I got into that when I was younger. Like, I'll be honest with you. Somebody asked me once, and this is a very good question. They go, if you never got into Dragon Ball when you were, because I got into it when I was like 14. Yeah. Or actually 12. Well, I was 12. 14 is when I really got into it, but 12 is when I first saw it. So they asked me, they go, if you had never got into Dragon Ball, would you get into it now as an adult? I
Mhm.
think I would, but it
Yeah.
probably would not be like the obsession it's been in my life. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like I
Yeah.
would get into it
Yeah.
because I got into Cobra Kai this year,
Yeah.
and Cobra Kai is just like Dragon Ball. I mean,
Uh-huh.
they're so much alike. And obviously, I love wrestling, and that's also like it. Let
Yeah.
me ask you, what kind of things were you into? I know you mentioned
Yeah.
Boondocks and Avatar,
Yeah.
but as a kid growing up, what were
Yeah.
you into?
I mean, the main thing was like, Lego, WWE. WWE was very big in my life. I mean, my family could attest to that. That was a
Yeah, but
huge
you
part of
missed
it.
the good eras, though,
I
bro.
did miss the good
Well,
era.
no, you saw some of it.
Yeah,
You saw some
I
of it.
saw some of it, but I did go back a little bit because my favorite wrestler of all time, Shawn Michaels. I love Shawn Michaels to death. That was my favorite. Went back and watched a little bit of the Attitude Era with Stone Cold, The Rock, and all these other people and whatnot. So my exploration with WWE is pretty wide and whatnot. My stepfather took me to my the only WrestleMania I ever went to, and I believe it was WrestleMania 30, and it was when it came to
I was in
Florida.
the building.
Yeah, I was in the
I
building
was
too.
there. We were in the building. There's
Crazy
a
stuff.
picture of me. There's a picture of me that my chick took when the Undertaker got pinned. Where
Yeah.
I'm like, because
Oh,
everybody was like
man.
that. Everybody
Yeah.
was like that because
Yeah.
nobody thought that was gonna happen.
Oh, man. No, that was an event, man. No,
That
I
was a
remember.
great show.
Yeah, it was a great show. And I went there, man. I think we were like sitting like in the blood seats or whatever the hell that may like indicate. But it was like a really great time. I
You
mean,
mean the
WWE
nosebleed
the
seat?
nosebleeds, yeah,
Yeah.
the nosebleeds, yeah, up
Yeah.
there. But seeing everything, I was just like, being a huge WWE fan, I was just like, oh man, this is so exciting. And
There's nothing like it, man.
I think that was the return where Jeff Hardy and Matt Hardy made a return also within the same WrestleMania as well.
No, that's 33.
Oh,
in
33.
Orlando.
Yeah.
Did you go to that one too?
I think I went to that one. That was the one I went to.
I was also
33.
at that
Yeah,
one.
that one I went to.
Dude,
That was
when they came back, the building was rumbling.
Oh man, I remember they came out. They freaking introduced them. I was like, "What,
The
man?"
New Day.
Oh god, man, no, so WWE was a very big part of it. Obviously, Lego because Lego kind of put in a lot within like stop motion and whatnot. But bigger things, DC. And I remember watching the interview, I believe with Jamie that Jamie did with you, talking about the English dub of Daima and whatnot.
Snowden?
Yeah, Snowden. Yeah, and he
He
brought up
might be coming
something.
on next week.
Yeah, he brought up a really great thing about relating it back to Daima, and connecting it to DC because I also like to talk about DC. When DC had an animated thing, and I don't think that you watched this, but they had an animated thing towards where the Justice League turned into kids, and they had like
I
a whole
didn't
little
see
thing.
that.
Yeah, so they had a whole thing that
Huh.
was where like there was like a movie or like animated show that's where they turned to kids, and they got kids to voice those characters. And Jamie compared a lot of the performances to something like that. And I love that because that's essentially kind of what it is. You know what I'm saying? Towards where the Justice League were like in the bodies of kids, but still mentality wise, still who they were, like Batman and Wonder Woman and whatnot. You know what I mean? So I'm like, that's kind of very similar in terms of concepts that they were going for. So I really love that comparison that he made within the interview that he did with you. And I wanted to bring it up here because, DC is also like a really great thing that I've been like very, very invested to. DC, Marvel as well. Just a lot of fandom-esque stuff. So I was very surprised, now being an anime fan, like why I was such a hater all the way back then before COVID, because I was still like a geek, going into a lot of like comics and stuff. So I'm like, I should have just explored it, but I'm glad that I did. COVID really gave me the opportunity to just sit down and watch it. And without that, oh man, my life would be completely 360. You know what I'm saying? If I didn't kind of pick up Naruto for that first day. But yeah, there was a lot of stuff, to be honest.
You know what's interesting about that, man? I was a Marvel kid,
Yeah.
and the only DC I really knew much about was Batman because that's like the biggest character.
Yeah.
And Superman. I mean, I love the Christopher Reeve Superman movies.
Yeah.
Like I loved those as a kid.
Yeah.
But when I got older, a lot of my friends were like, "No, man, you should watch DC now," because a lot of people say that DC is because it's more of an allegory, and the superheroes are like a lot of the storylines in DC are very like sophisticated, like the good ones, the classic ones.
Exactly.
And Marvel's, they have their good storylines too. I'm not saying they don't, but they do say that DC gets better with age. So maybe I should. I mean, I've got a lot of shit back there, bro.
Yeah, man.
I've got Kingdom Come. I've got Death in the Family. I've got Death of Superman. I've got a few back there.
Yeah, no.
But most of my stuff is X-Men.
Yeah,
X-Men is like No, I love
No,
X-Men.
I get you, man.
That's my number one.
DC's one of those things, and I feel like that just eternally. I've always loved like their animated side of stuff. You know, they really
they are the
clean up
kings.
the king.
Live action, they can never get it right.
Exactly.
But animated, bro, they blow Marvel
Oh,
away.
100%.
Every time.
The biggest.
Every time there's like the long Halloween or something. Like that, I put it on. I'm just. Mask of the people say that like Dark Knight's the best Batman movie, and I'm like, yeah, but there's Mask of the Phantasm.
Yeah, man. There's also like really good stuff. Like Under the Red Hood was also really great. I'm just saying like there's so many things. I think Jensen Ackles, he plays in The Boys. He played Jason Todd in that movie, and that was I believe it's Jensen Ackles. I'm not sure if
he was also in Supernatural, right?
Yeah, exactly too. So I'm like, there's a lot of good stuff from DC in terms of the animated side, and I'm hoping. And I was honestly, as a DC fan, honestly just wanted them to kind of just go back to that. They've been trying their hands at movies. I know James Gunn has his own thing going on and whatnot, and I love the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. So I'm interested to see what he's going on. But I feel like he's very stuck
next year.
Yeah, Superman next year. I've been seeing the animated stuff he's going on. He's very stuck on the Suicide Squad stuff. With that genre and whatnot with the animated stuff and whatnot. But I'm like, the comedy. Yeah, the comedy. I'm like, I mess with it. But I'm waiting to see that Superman movie because for a while I just kind of wanted my Superman back, the bright boy in blue. Just the
you weren't a fan of the Snyder one.
Yeah, not really. I mean, like I understand the concept of making him evil, blah 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 blah. But it's like I always like debatably always said that like kind of making him evil, and I like the injustice part of it, but it just took away a little bit from just who Superman is as a character, and especially in the duo and how well they bounced off of between Superman and Batman as just counterparts of characters and whatnot, with Batman being on the streets and Superman being in the sky. That kind of relation in terms of characteristics between the two of them, and when you take that away from Superman, you also take that away from Batman. You know what I'm saying? Because that's kind of like where the where they clash and beautifully get mixed in terms of their duo and whatnot. I didn't personally enjoy the Snyder stuff, but there are aspects.
I like the Justice League Snyder cut though.
The cut was great. I feel like that was definitely better than the Justice League. Darkseid was questionable. In terms of his introduction, I did like his appearance though in it because to see Darkseid in a freaking movie, I'm like, whoa, okay.
To see Granny Goodness,
I'm like, okay. Yeah. Wow.
But the part where he were with the axe and he's like not impressed. That's great. That is and that felt like felt like Superman not impressed. Like bam, like no, and I hope that James Gunn does go back to like the Christopher Reeve style Superman. Yeah. But obviously a little bit of Snyder, give him a little bit of an edge, but don't go too far over the top. Because I like Man of Steel. I don't hate it, but it's not like super enjoyable. Like I like the movie, but it's not like the like I watched the other day. I downloaded the 3 hour and 8 minute cut of Superman 1978. And look, it's an old movie, but the special effects for 1978 to get him to fly were on point. Dude, I'm watching it for the first time since I was a kid, and I'm loving it. I'm like, have you ever seen the old Superman, the 78 one?
I believe I've seen like clips in it and whatnot. Not sat down and actually watched it, but I have heard like really good things about it and whatnot.
I mean, you're younger. So if you can get past like the spandex and the goofy costume, there's a lot to love in that movie, bro.
No, 100%.
The movie has heart. That movie has a lot of heart, bro. No, like 100%. You want heart? Like that movie has heart, bro. Yeah. Like crazy amounts.
I'm excited. I'm excited to see where they go in the DC's direction with it. I have a little faith in James Gunn, because of the Guardians of the Galaxy. But it's more of just like we'll see type of thing. Like I said, I'll be a very big hypocrite of just like, I think it's gonna be terrible because that would just be like, I tell people about Daima.
I think it'll be good. I trust James Gunn. The issue I have is that they have rebooted this DC movie universe so many times. That it's kind of like how, like, for example, I'll give you an example. Yeah. When I first heard about Dragon Ball Magic, and I was told Goku's going to be a kid again, this would have been summer of last year. Yeah. I was like, some people in the fandom aren't gonna like this, but I think some people are gonna love it.
Yeah.
And I knew like people are gonna crap on it. They're compared to GT. I just knew.
Yeah.
But when I found out they were gonna get people like the people who were going to be on it, like the big animators, I was like, okay, they'll come around, right?
Yeah.
And like it's the same thing with DC, where I think the Superman movie itself will be good, but I don't know if people are going to like go into it thinking, well, we got screwed the last time,
exactly.
You know, with because DC kept changing. You know the story.
Yeah.
They kept changing stuff. They kept canceling movies, like, and people just. Like, I liked the Flash movie, but people didn't go see it because they didn't want to get invested in it. So James Gunn has to make a good enough movie that it's a good movie, and now fans are like, okay, we're willing to try DC again.
Exactly, because, you know, the amount of times that you can, like, you know, tell a Batman story and, like, make it refreshing is, like, you're given, like, a time. You're given just so many times.
Did you see The Penguin, by the way?
I did. The Penguin is really great. You know, what The Penguin reminded me, and it's not a lot of DC fans.
You remind me of Victor, bro. I hope you don't end up like Victor, though.
Oh, yeah, I hope I don't too, you know. But
you're heart.
Yeah, The Penguin reminded me a lot of a show that people don't watch, but I also feel like it's really good called Gotham. There was a Fox DC show that went into, like, you know, show. Gotham was like, Gotham was really, really great in terms of it. So it kind of had like similar themes in terms of where the story was going and whatnot. And I really did appreciate it. You know, I like the one-shot era of DC. You know, but longevity wise, I feel like that it's going to like kind of kick itself in the foot, especially when they want to get into more of the, you know, expanded universe and whatnot. The CW kind of, you know, kicked it in the butt with all the one-shot things. They were just like, hey guys, let's just include everything. And I'm like, it messes with every timeline canonically, and especially with the Infinite Crisis stuff. It was, I don't know, it was a wild thing. But, you know, the kind of, you know, lastly, probably my 2 cents, you know, I really do enjoy DC, and I'm hoping that, you know, it kind of does its work overall.
We got 2 more questions, then we're going to wrap it up here. Cool. And then I'll ask you a couple more and we'll be done. Rabbit Core says, type A indigo hair blue is what I was talking about. I think I discussed that. So there's 2 videos you should watch, Rabbit Core. Well, you should watch all the transformation guides in order because then you get the full picture. But I did a video called Legendary Super Saiyan Broly Explained. It's part of the transformation guide, or I think it's called Legendary Super Saiyan Explained. And I talk about that there, about like the blue hair and what led to it. I don't know why they call it Type A. Again, that's a fan-made name because in none of the movie pamphlets, in none of the Japanese guidebooks, I got them all back there. None of them call it Type A. But now I know what you're talking about, so I did talk about it there. And then, of course, the Broly Transformation Explained is just about Broly's forms in Super and comparing them to the old ones. So anyways, I'm just letting him know. And then Gabby says, have you seen Batman versus TMNT? That's good Batman film. Have you seen that? I haven't, but I haven't seen it yet.
I think it was the one towards where, like, because there's been like some collaboration with TMNT. I'm not sure if it was just like a singular thing, but I think I've seen like one of them definitely towards where, like, you know, I remember like a specific scene where Michelangelo was like worried, was like, you know, worried about like what was in the darkness, and then Batman came down. He was like, what is that? You know, so I think I did see like remnants of those films and whatnot, but I do like when TMNT collaborates with the Batman franchise because it meshes together pretty freaking well, man. You know, in terms of like their stories and whatnot, and like, you know, with you know, Shredder and stuff and Batman's Joker, you know, it's a lot in terms of what they are able to do with it. But, you know, I have to kind of just sit down and like rewatch everything, you know, to kind of get my memory together with it.
Yeah, I kind of want to go back and watch Mask of the Phantasm again. So honest, I love that movie, dude. Sleep says, I find it funny how Majin Kuu looks like he has a big PP, yet it's a kid's show. Okay, but the Cybermen were like that too.
Yeah, exactly.
The Cybermen their foreheads would open and they'd spit out a white liquid.
Yeah.
This is Toriyama's humor, dude. Like people... Like you get it, bro. Like,
yeah, you know,
Toriyama does stuff like this.
Exactly,
this is very normal for him.
You know, the amount of like, you know, fart jokes and, you know, poop jokes that were like, you know, in the show as well. Like, you could just kind of see where Toriyama was just like, yeah, you know, that one. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, it's cool to just see remnants of that, you know, in Daima and whatnot. You know,
I like this comment. Yamcha should fight Majin Kuu. If Yamcha sees Majin Kuu, bro, he'll have a heart attack. Bro.
Like, you will PTSD, have war flashbacks.
Yeah, he'll have PTSD, bro. You know that baseball episode? So the first time I watched it, when they show the Yamcha in the pose, like when he's on the ground,
Yeah.
right, and the dead pose, I was like, the first thing I said was, "Oh my god, Toei is aware that he's a meme now." Like, it's not even like you know how the Japanese are very disconnected from us,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And our memes never get over there, but a couple of them do. And I'm like, wow, like even they also think that Yamcha's a meme.
Man, there's so many stuff that I kind of wish that like got, translated over in terms of the meme stuff, like with the whole grill master bit with Piccolo, you know what I'm saying? Like, hopefully that might get translated over the, Daima. If they're having a barbecuing scene, I might sneak in a line, pull an
I hope
Alex,
so.
pull an Alex Lee and like, oh man, but like just certain stuff that I'm like, it kind of like really shapes the community a little bit in terms of like what we can all kind of like just point and laugh about, you know what I mean, in terms of just like some stuff. And I've been seeing like, a lot of meme stuff that I've been like looking into and just cracking up about just as a consumer as well as an actor,
It's always great. So, all right, before we get out of here, what are your big goals in your career? Like, are you looking to do on screen acting? Or are you looking to do voice for only like anime and games? I know you obviously want more than that, but like, what is your long-term goal with now that you're in doing work for real, like for a lot of different franchises? You're in a big one now. So what are you looking to do in the future?
I mean, we've had like little slight conversations about this, but the main thing that I kind of see like prolongedly down the path for me is like kind of being in the director position, being the person giving opportunities instead of the person always receiving the opportunities. And for me, obviously I love voice acting, I love this career, but I always feel like that there's going to be a point in time there's going to be a point in time in my life where I'm probably just going to have to put the stick down and be like, okay, now it's time to kind of evolve from this. Maybe hopefully open up my own studio towards where we license, other anime dubs and whatnot, or maybe, go up the hierarchy with Crunchyroll and start working for them in the producer position. Who might knows? But for me, I've always kind of seen myself prolongedly just wanting to kind of, be in a position of giving opportunity, right? Because I'm always more of a giver than a getter in terms of pretty much everything. That's my love language in terms of pretty much a lot of things, but yeah, being a director is probably there. But in terms of career stuff, but what I'm prioritizing now, obviously is just like I mentioned it here a lot of the times, not even just like, for saving face or anything. I'm just like, my top responsibility as of right now is, really making sure that, I do justice by Piccolo. You know what I'm saying? Not just for the fans, not just because of Sabbath, not even just for everything, just collaboratively for everything and everybody, Toriyama, everyone working on Dragon Ball Daima, everyone that's like believed in me and all these other things, like really putting my head, into, the books and really making sure that this is just like great, at least doing as much as I can as an actor, as a consumer, as a human being to make sure that this is the best thing that it could possibly be and just working hard to ensure that. So that's my priority as of right now. You know what I'm saying? That's kind of the number one, than just all the career stuff and whatnot. I'm really just trying to make sure that this is really great. And obviously afterwards, it's just, working more. I love the process of the man. I revel a lot more in being in the booth and doing the work rather than reveling in the outside aspects of it, like, doing this and doing that. And, I love the appreciation and, getting to, do this because it's a privilege and, it's so cool because, sadly, not a lot of people, get to do this, you know what I'm saying? And that's something that I see a lot. And hopefully as time goes on, when I'm in a, better position myself, more financially and more, just career wise, that can offer opportunities to folks that normally wouldn't get those opportunities, whether that's because of location, whether it become a financial or any other things. I just want people to get the experience that they want this experience. And if they deserve this experience, to be able to rightfully get to have this experience of doing what they love to do without having to deal with the bullshit that comes with life. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of my mentality of that whole kind of thing, right? There's a lot, that I still got to learn, you know what I'm saying? I'm still growing up, you know what I'm saying? In terms of like, knowing what I want to do and all these other things, things might be changing some stuff here and there, but at least as of right now, I can confidently say that I just like, I just want to grow bigger, do more, and just really live by doing right by this role for just everybody. You know what I'm saying?
Is there like a dream project?
Dream project?
Like Avatar. I'm not Avatar, I'm sorry, but like Boondocks. I want to be on Boondocks. Like something that you think is unrealistic, but maybe it is going to be because you never know.
I did mention it, JoJo Bizarre Adventure. I mentioned this on a lot of, podcasts and whatnot.
That's your favorite one.
Steel Ball Run as the voice of Johnny Joestar. That would be something that, and if I predicted on the podcast, that would be really cool. But, that's a role and opportunity that I would love to kind of explore, because that was actually a first dream role of mine of going into this space and being an anime fan, was that role. And I know they're like, working on the animation side of Steel Ball Run. I'm not really sure what they're doing when it comes to that, but that would be a really cool role to kind of do and whatnot in the future and whatnot. Obviously, after I'm done with Piccolo and all these other things and whatnot, but that would be something that I'm like, yeah, man, that would be really cool. You
get your name in the credits of that, man. It's like what I said earlier about the special thanks thing. Like I love Daima. I would love it if they're never going to, but that's okay. That's all right. Oh, we did get one more here from, I think that's the last one, from Rabbit Core. One more. LOL, what if Baby and Boo absorb merge with each other? That would be a very powerful character if they,
That'll be the definition of a crash out character, man. Especially if it's Kid Boo and a Kid Boo fused with Baby. Like that would be wild, bro. Because Baby
is kind of a similar height too. Yeah, right. Like,
a
little bit taller.
Yeah, in terms of Baby, we're talking about the GT Baby, right? So I'm like, maybe. You know what I'm saying? I'm not sure. Yeah.
No, this guy here said that he just confirmed a street Steel Ball anime. No, he's not working on JoJo. He's saying he would like to. When I think we're gonna get Steel Ball. I mean,
eventually
you're gonna adapt it. Yeah, it's gonna be years though. It's down the road.
I wish I can confirm a Steel Ball anime, because as a fan, I've been struggling against the cages for that announcement and be like, please have an anime, please. The thing is, I get like freaking blue balled by a lot of people that make announcements, because like every year or so they're like, oh, Steel Ball anime in production, and then it turns out to be just fake, and I'm like, what the hell? You know what I'm saying? Like I get pissed. I'm like, oh man,
there's only a small handful of people you can trust with anime news.
Very
so I'm like, small handful.
So I'm like, I'm hoping that like announcement comes sometime soon, but that would be something I would love to work on if it were to ever happen, right? And take everything that I say, with these are just my own opinions, you know what I'm saying, directly to the people that are watching this, you know what I'm saying. I do not know anything, I can confirm anything, you know what I'm saying. I'm just a fan, you know what I'm saying. So like that's kind of like my thing about it. But yeah, that's kind of like what I would love to work on in the ever so foreseeable future.
Yeah, this stream is definitely not about like giving any inside information out, because like we talked about earlier, Nasim is oftentimes not told. Like it's not like when I think people just assume that if you're working on Dragon Ball that you somehow know everything that's coming. Like, oh, I know when the next movie's coming out, this, that, and the third. Yeah. And sometimes even the animators aren't even told. Like, and that's a fact. I have evidence of this. Like people don't find out sometimes until like it starts at the very top, and there's like a trickle down effect. Like, it goes, it starts with like the creative team, and then the writers, then the animators, and then the actors. And that's for here and Japan. Yeah. It's not, but now I will say this. I do think some people get obviously early information. Like, for example, Justin Cook. He used to be the president of Funimation. I think he still works.
Yeah, he's a producer.
He probably gets information early, not as early as Japan, but early. Sabit and then Nozawa, people like that are going to get information early. But most of the actors that work on these shows are not told anything until the time. Did you? Obviously, Daima was announced, but like a lot of them don't even know it's coming until the casting call. Like, hey, there's a new project coming.
And the thing is, like, to even put this out there in terms of just like how much I didn't know, I was even surprised when Crunchyroll announced the January 10th date for the English dub, because I didn't even know.
Me too.
I didn't know the date for the English dub. I didn't even know when, I didn't even know about the theatrical release until they announced it. You know what I'm saying? So, I gain information, at least in my own position, probably when the general public receives information and whatnot. Obviously, there's some stuff that I know when I'm recording on it. You know what I'm saying? Just in terms of aspect of like who's who and whatnot. But I'm like, I have a very short-term memory anyway, so I probably forget. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of my 2 cents on that whole ordeal and whatnot.
Yes, yeah. So I mean, that's it. People keep this guy in the chat keeps asking how much you make. Listen, I've interviewed a lot of actors, and I never asked them about their income.
Yeah.
Some of them have told me like off air, but I'm never ever going to ask. Dude, just stop. I'm not gonna ask anybody how much money they make, dude. I'm not even gonna tell you how much money I make. Like, that's such a personal question.
Like, why are you pocket watching me? Okay.
Yeah, I know, right? Like let it go.
It's cool. I understand the curiosity because, you know, a lot of people renownedly say that, you know, especially anime voiceover is like a very, you know, underpaid career and whatnot.
I think it is.
You relatively, it could definitely fork out a lot more. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to go into specifics because obviously it's contractual stuff that I can't go into. But, you know, morally, I get money. You know, I do get paid for it. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, you know, so that's I'm grateful for, you know, that at least. You know,
nobody should work for free.
Exactly. Putting it out there, you know, Noah's word, you know what I mean? So like that's the whole thing. But I understand the curiosity though. But you know, in terms of it, like, you know, don't be pocket watching me, man. You know, like it's cool though. I understand it.
Right. And also I feel like I think a lot of people in the anime industry are underpaid. Yeah. And this is a much broader topic than just voice.
Yeah.
So the guy who animated that Goku Tamagami fight, Naoto Shishida, I know what his income is, and I've made more than him annually every year of my life since I was like 25 or something. And and I'm not saying that to brag. I think that's actually kind of fucked up.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, messed up.
Yeah.
Because if you're that talented, he's a gem. This is a very talented artist. You should be making more. And the Japanese, I think the Japanese are the people are very underpaid in these industries. I really think so.
And I am glad, you know, that we have, you know, kind of, you know, places or things put in place, you know, like as of recently, you know, we still have the video game strike that's going on, you know, with SAG-AFTRA and whatnot, you know, fighting for, you know, better pay for actors and whatnot and better, you know, wages and working conditions and, you know, AI protections and whatnot. So I'm like, you know, I'm glad that there are stuff in place actively that are protecting actors like me and other people. And, you know, continuing in agencies as well. Agents do fight for us, you know, in terms of our, you know, working environments and payments and whatnot. So there's a lot of stuff that, you know, they do on the back end to protect actors within these work environments. So I am actively, you know, glad for that. But yeah, you know, people should be getting paid a lot more, really. That's kind of what I would add, you know, to it, to not make it a little bit too political, you know, in terms of conversation.
No, of course. Yeah, it's just, but it's true. Like, I'd be the first one to tell you, like, the AI voice thing scares a lot. I had one actor call me on the phone really worried about losing their job to AI. It's a legitimate thing.
Exactly.
It's bad. But thank you, Nasim, so much, Brooke, for coming on, man. I was going to have you on for 2 hours and we went a little bit longer. I'd lost track of time. I'm so sorry.
No worries.
I am so sorry. Please say sorry to your grandma. I'm really not a vulgar guy. You know, it's like I don't fart in church.
You know,
I don't curse around older people. I just curse around young people.
You know, it's fair. That's fair. Well, no, I'm glad to be on, man. You know, because I've been doing a lot more, you know, panels and, you know, podcasts and whatnot, just to kind of share love and talk about Daima, man. You know, and for me, like, I'm as much as, you know, as a fan as everybody else is trying to be. So I'm glad that, you know, you give me the opportunity to come on here and just, you know, to just shoot the shit. You know what I'm saying? Just shoot the conversation about Daima. You know, shoot the shit about, you know, the stuff with Piccolo and whatnot. And I just say there's a lot more to come. So, you know, I'm just excited just as well as everybody else to see this new series and, you know, see what it's got in store, you know, and hopefully then when the English dub comes out, you know, everybody will enjoy it as well. So, you know, I'm glad to be here, man. I appreciate you having me on.
It's adorable. This guy AB says that I should pay some of the actors to do a different dub. Like, you know, he's saying I should hire you to dub Daima for me. And it's like, buddy, there's these things called copyright laws.
You know, in a perfect world,
I would love to have my own dub of Dragon Ball, but I don't own Dragon Ball, bro. It's impossible.
You know, in a perfect world, things would be different, but unfortunately, we have to confine to a lot of, you know, things when it comes to the world and whatnot. But, you know,
it's an adorable question. You know what I mean?
No,
like because he's not. I don't think he's dumb, but he's naive to the industry. Like, there's contracts, there's lawyers. Like, it's not just, hey, we're having fun doing cartoons. There's way more to it than that.
You know, I wish it was. You know, honestly, I wish it was like that. You know what I'm saying? But you know, it kind of is what it is. But I do
Is there
appreciate the sentiment.
is
Oh,
there anything you want to plug?
oh yeah, I mean,
Go for it.
so first of
Go
all,
for it.
like I said, my name is Nasim Benelkour. Renownedly on any social media sites, you can find me at Nasim Benelkour. That's NASIM BENELKOUR on Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, probably anywhere that you find a social media site. To be honest, if you are interested in the career of voice acting, although I'm not a teacher, I don't see myself as a teacher. I do know a thing or two about the career to at least confidently give advice. I am hosting a VO workout on the Closing Credits site, which is a sister parent company to Casting Call Club, on December 14th, I believe. So that's next week, same, you know, time a little bit. So if you want to research, go into that and whatnot. It's gonna be fun. I'm gonna be, you know, talk about voice acting and whatnot, you know, giving my little tips and tricks and, you know, giving a little bit, a couple of, you know, letting people read and, you know, giving advice and whatnot. So that's going to be pretty cool. But yeah, man, I mean, I'm really excited to Daima. Like I said, I'm doing this, you know, being in this position is a privilege and an honor. And it's an opportunity that, you know, will not leave my memory and will not leave, you know, my sense of gratitude until I'm on my deathbed. And even after that, you know, I would still be appreciative of everything this role will do for me and has already done for me currently and now and in the future. So, you know, every time that I'm going in the booth, every time that hopefully if I have like a screaming thing, I'm going all the way there, you know, I'm doing it for everybody that's here. I'm doing it for you. I'm doing it for everybody that loves and appreciates this show. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, thank you, Akira Toriyama, because I wouldn't be here, man. So that's kind of everything that I have to say. But I appreciate you, Geekdom, for having me on the pod, man. And I'm really excited to just see where the story goes from here.
Me too. It's picking up now with the Majin Kuu thing. So I think the next like 11 episodes are gonna be way more intense than the first 9.
Yeah,
I do
100%.
think so. I think we're gonna get to the good stuff. All right, y'all. We'll have a good one. I'll see y'all next week. Take care. Have a great day.